Chapter 1886. In the blink of an eye, the 4 Heaven Realm experts disappeared. Heaven Realm experts could control the world's origin, so it was not easy to kill them. The sound of wind and thunder disappeared, and the lightning turned into a small knife. It spun in the sky and returned to Zi Chen's hand. After seeing this scene, the 7 pseudo-Heaven Realm experts, who were already frightened, immediately showed fear in their eyes. The battle between the Heaven Realm experts had already ended. Not to mention the 2 Heaven Realm experts who were free. Just Zi Chen, who had regained his celestial weapon, was not someone they could deal with. Let's go. Seeing that Zi Chen had no killing intent, the group of pseudo-Heaven Realm experts decisively turned around and fled. Zi Chen glanced at the other party and did not make a move. As he said before, these people were all humans of the Jianwu continent. In the previous battle, the old farmer and the Thunder Saint Beast both sensed that Zi Chen's sudden outburst had reversed the situation. Coming to Zi Chen, the old farmer asked doubtfully, "You broke through." Zi Chen was now like a pseudo-Heaven Realm expert, but not at the same time. His realm was very strange. Zi Chen shook his head and said, "I'm still supreme, but I can break through at any time." The new world's origin made Zi Chen stronger. Zi Chen did not want to break through immediately. He wanted to wait for the world's origin to fully mature and reach a limit before breaking through. After the battle ended, this area was completely shattered. The void shattered from time to time, and energy kept surging. It could no longer stay here. For a long time, this place would become a forbidden area. For those below the supreme level, this place was a land of death. The celestial weapon was refined, and this matter was over. Under the Thunder Saint Beast's suggestion, the 3 entered the city. Hearing that, the old farmer was slightly startled. He had forgotten how long it had been since he set foot in a human city. The celestial weapon needs to be nourished by the origin. When it's not needed, it can be nourished. It can also be fed. The food is the heavenly soul. The old farmer reminded Zi Chen. The heavenly soul was naturally the soul of a pseudo-Heaven Realm expert. Nodding, Zi Chen thanked them. This time, the 2 had spent decades refining the weapon for him. Not only did they not ask for any reward, but they also paid a lot. After arriving at the human city, the 3 of them first went to a restaurant. Eating and drinking were the lightning sacred beast's favorite. The 3 of them chose a private room. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the service staff removed the tableware and served tea and snacks. The old farmer raised his hand and shot out a beam of energy. The entire room was shrouded in a restriction. The old farmer looked at Zi Chen and said, "With your talent, it won't be too difficult for you to enter the Heaven Realm. Celestial armaments need to be compatible with one's body. Condensing more origin energy will be of great benefit to your compatibility with celestial armaments." Zi Chen nodded solemnly. "In addition, all of your weapons can be nurtured with the origin. In the end, there might be some unexpected surprises." The old farmer added, "Now that there are no outsiders here, you should have other doubts in your heart, right?" Zi Chen had absolute trust in the 2 of them. He didn't hesitate and asked directly, "I want to know what a heaven-defying person is." The 2 of them didn't look surprised. Obviously, they had already guessed that Zi Chen would ask such a question. After pondering for a while, the lightning sacred beast said, "A heaven-defying person is a heaven-defying existence." Zi Chen still didn't understand. A heaven-defying existence? Is there really such an existence as heaven in this world? The lightning sacred beast shook his head and said, "This heaven is not that heaven." Zi Chen was even more puzzled. He is too weak now and hasn't come into contact with many things. He can't explain it for now. The old farmer said, "Zi Chen, you only need to remember that your appearance is an extremely good thing for the Jianwu continent, but to the other races you are a threat." The old farmer pointed at the sky again. "It is because of your appearance that this world is full of vitality. Everything is recovering and a great era is coming. But it is also because of your appearance that the other races have sensed a threat. They have to eliminate this threat. The appearance of a heaven-defying person is both a blessing and a disaster for the Jianwu continent. I will be a threat to the other races. In theory, that is indeed the case. But in reality, a heaven-defying person has never been a threat to the other races. Why? That's because they died before they could grow up. Zichen understood everything and said, "The two seniors are helping me because of my identity as a heaven-defying person." Yes and no. There are other reasons. Zichen asked. Being a heaven-defying person is only one of the reasons. The main reason is your character. The old farmer stared into Zichen's eyes and said seriously, "In the history of the Jianwu continent, many heaven-defying people have appeared due to coincidences. Although every time a heaven-defying person appears, the other races will invade, but not every heaven-defying person is killed by them. A few of them were killed by the experts of this continent. Once a heaven-defying person matures, they will possess unimaginable destructive power. If their character is not good enough, it will be a real disaster for the Jianwu continent." As if guessing what Zichan wanted to ask, the old farmer said, "The reason why I helped you is because of the call of the other races. Knowing your identity, I should help you at least once. That is why there was that light rain. After that, you stayed beside the ants and helped them. After that, I could see that you have a good temperament. After that, you often went out to look for the other races. I can see that you hate them. For a heaven-defying person, this is the most important thing. Of course, you also have the aura of the Thunder Saint Beast, which is another reason why I helped you." Zichen hadn't expected there to be so many factors involved in refining a weapon. But it was true that no one would foolishly waste their energy to give someone a heaven-defying weapon. After all, neither of them had a heaven-defying weapon. This time, even if you didn't ask about being a heaven-defying person, we would have told you in advance that there are a few things you need to pay attention to. Zichen calmly listened. In the future, when you fight with others, it's best if you don't reveal your ability to threaten the heaven realm. You can use it when your life is in danger, but in most situations, it's best if you use the Myriad Origin Cauldron to hide the fact that you can destroy the life of a heaven realm expert. Of course, a heaven-defying weapon can also help you hide it, but you have to remember that this weapon of yours is much stronger than an ordinary heaven-defying weapon. So when you use it, you have to be careful. Before you truly reach the heaven realm, you can't let others know that you are a heaven-defying person, especially those powerful families with long inheritances. Zichen solemnly nodded. The old farmer continued, "You came from the Martial Heaven continent. If you have time, you should go back there." "Why?" "The Martial Heaven continent is the origin of all worlds. You'll be able to gain a deeper understanding of the world there." This was the answer that Xing Dao Li had bitterly searched for tens of thousands of years to no avail. But today, the old farmer was telling him this with absolute certainty. There were many secrets that the old farmer hadn't told him, but Zichen was extremely clear that his current strength was too low. Telling him too many secrets was useless. For example, before he had refined a heaven-defying weapon, Zichen hadn't even known that there were heaven-grade materials in this world. Even if he had heard of them, he wouldn't have been able to imagine what they were like. Only after personally experiencing them did he truly sense them. Don't worry too much. Right now, your concealment methods are a form of protection for you. Once you step into the heaven realm and have the power to protect yourself, there will be no need to hide many of your methods. This is because in a battle between heaven realm cultivators, although most of the time there won't be deaths, if one side has a heavenly soldier and the other doesn't, they will still die in such a situation. Moreover, during this period of time, some great Tao techniques will be involved, which can forcibly destroy one's vitality. Remember, being undying is just a realm. It doesn't mean you're truly undying. The two of them asked Zichen what he planned to do. Zichen told them that he was planning to head to the first continent and then borrow a path to return to the Martial Heaven continent. Seeing that Zichen had already made up his mind, the old farmer reminded him. "The first continent has many inherited families. They know many secrets like the back of their hands. Once you get there, you have to be careful." Zichen nodded. Before leaving, Zichen gave the Star Illusion Dragon Spike to the old farmer. The old farmer had once been a saint, and a saint who knew how to refine weapons. The Star Illusion Dragon Spike had been a saint weapon back then, but it had long since been destroyed. It could barely be considered a chosen weapon now. Zichen gave it to the old farmer, hoping he could repair it. The old farmer didn't refuse. He was very professional in this aspect. Just as he was about to leave, the lightning saint beast called out to Zichen and gave him a spiritual sphere that was emitting thunderlight. This sphere clearly contained the lightning saint beast's soul. Zichen guessed that this was a life-saving measure given to him by the lightning saint beast, to be used at a critical moment. But the lightning saint beast then told him that this was a magical art. Magical art. That's right. This is something the old master obtained by chance. It forcefully entered my soul. It's called the lightning blade defense. Although it's incomplete, it's extremely powerful. Zichen couldn't help but be moved. The old master, the lightning saint beast, still had the old master. The old master is the true ancestor of the lightning tribe. I'm actually just his mount. Zichen was shocked. If even a mount was a saint, how powerful was the ancestor? It's a pity that he went missing for a long time. It's said that he died outside. Mentioning the old master again, the lightning saint beast still felt sad. Something left behind by such an expert was naturally extraordinary. Zichen solemnly put it away, preparing to comprehend it when he was free. After leaving the restaurant, almost all the cultivators in the city were discussing the oppressive aura they had sensed earlier. They were all guessing whether or not some kind of treasure had appeared. Unfortunately, this aura had appeared for too short a time. Many people hadn't been able to pinpoint its exact location. After that, the old farmer and the lightning saint beast separated. The two of them had re-entered the heaven realm. Their celestial armament had already been destroyed. Now they needed some new materials to refine another one. Other than that, the two of them also needed to find some opportunities to return to the saint realm. According to the two of them, after the upheaval, the outsiders would sense it. It wouldn't be long before the outsiders would invade. However, there would be a buffer period in between. During this period of time, Zichen needed to grow up quickly. However, Zichen's growth was closely related to the growth of the world. He couldn't rush it. Right now, Zichen could only go find the others. Once he found them, they would return to the martial heaven continent. Chapter 1887. After parting ways with the two of them, Zichen headed to the fourth mainland. It had been nearly 100 years since he left the sword sect. After such a long time, Wang Xianer should have broken through and come out of seclusion. With the cross-domain teleportation array, Zichen directly crossed the domain and arrived at the border of the fifth mainland. Zichen did not deliberately speed up, as he wanted to take some time to cultivate the thunder blade manipulation technique. He stopped at a towering peak. Zichen looked ahead. In front of him was a boundless primeval forest. Occasionally, the roars of beasts could be heard from the forest. This place was not bad. Zichen sat cross-legged and began to comprehend the thunder blade manipulation technique. Senior. His consciousness entered his sea of consciousness, and Zichen saw the thunder sacred beast. This was the lightning ball that the thunder sacred beast had given him back then. It recorded the thunder blade manipulation technique. This was given to the thunder sacred beast by the real ancestor of the Thunder Clan, and it was forcefully implanted into its soul. If the thunder sacred beast wanted to pass the technique to Zichen, the only thing it could do was to lose these souls. If its soul was forcefully torn apart, the thunder sacred beast would never be able to use the thunder blade manipulation technique again. This was what the thunder sacred beast told Zichen when he first comprehended the thunder blade manipulation technique. Compared to before, this soul shadow was clearly much dimmer. Continue. Only the source energy can activate it, the thunder's sacred beast said. Its voice had also become weak. Zichen nodded and used his spiritual senses to simulate the appearance of the heavenly weapon knife. Then he activated the Thunder Blade manipulation technique. This technique was clearly prepared for those above the heaven realm. Without the source energy of the world, it was impossible to activate it, even if one was in the pseudo-heaven realm. Although Zichen was not in the heaven realm, the source energy produced by his own world was a high-grade existence that could be used in this realm. Watching Zichen evolve over and over again, the Thunder's sacred beast transmitted all the memories in its mind about the Thunder Blade manipulation technique to Zichen. In the end, the Thunder's sacred beast's figure faded until it disappeared. "Senior," Zichen called out, his eyes filled with reluctance. "I'm just a remnant thought. Don't worry." The Thunder's sacred beast's soul completely disappeared. In this world, Zichen was the only one who knew how to control the Thunder Broadswords. After returning to his own world, Zichen went to the World Origin. This place had become a lake again, and the World Origin was still expanding. Whether it was quality or quantity, the new World Origin far surpassed the original World Origin. At this moment, the Saber Spirit was frolicking in the Origin Source. When it saw Zichen arrive, it instantly turned into a beam of light and arrived before Zichen. Saber Spirit was the name Zichen had given to the heavenly soldier. Master, Saber Spirit is very hungry." The Saber Spirit's tender voice came out of its mouth. Now it could speak. Every time it saw Zichen, it would say this over and over again. The old farmer had once said that the Saber Spirit was different from ordinary heaven-grade soldiers. It was more powerful. He had hinted to Zichen that the Saber Spirit could grow faster if it was fed to the heavenly soul. As for why he hinted, it was because there were not many foreign tribes left in this world. Moreover, most of them were in hiding and were not easy to find. He was a little worried that Zichen would use unscrupulous means to find the fake heavens of this world to feed the heavenly soldier so that it could grow. The old farmer's worries were obviously unnecessary. A great enemy could come at any time. Zichen knew his limits. There will be good food in a few days. Zichen smiled at the Saber Spirit. With a flick of his finger, the Saber Spirit's body fell back into the World Origin with a crisp clang. The latter was sleeping in the World Origin with a satisfied look on its face. Apart from the Saber Spirit, there was also Zichen's 6 wings of heavenly thunder, the divine dragon bow, the divine dragon arrow, and the scabbard that no longer had a long saber. It was worth mentioning here that the heavenly soldier saber was not like other weapons. It could not change its size at will. It was only so big. Its size could not change after it was formed. According to the old farmer's instructions, the weapons on his body were nourished with the World Origin when they were not in use. However, there were no other changes for the time being. Zichen stood outside the World Origin and sat cross-legged. With a flip of his hand, the cauldron appeared. At that moment, there were 2 fake heavens of the foreign tribes suppressed in the cauldron. Boom! The cauldron trembled and flames burned. Zichen waved one hand, and a large amount of the World Origin turned into a water dragon. It all poured into the cauldron. Then, the screams of the foreign tribes came from the cauldron. The cauldron could greatly increase the efficiency of Zichen's refinement by destroying the World Origin. After 10 days like this, the screams became weaker. Another 10 days passed, and there were no more sounds from the cauldron. The souls of the 2 fake heavens were forcibly extracted. Their bodies became heaven-level materials. These materials did not have souls. They could only be used as supplementary materials when refining the heavenly soldier. As soon as the 2 heavenly souls appeared, the sword spirit came to Zichen with a whoosh. It looked at Zichen pitifully. When it saw Zichen nod, it opened its small mouth and swallowed the 2 heavenly souls in an instant. Then it returned to the World Origin lake and closed its eyes comfortably. Just like this, Zi Chun passed through the border and arrived at the fourth mainland. Here, the sword sect was the absolute overlord. After Zi Chun entered the city, he stepped onto the interdomain transfer array and went straight to the sword sect. After so many years, Zi Chun came to the sword sect again. It was still very lively. Disciples with swords on their backs could be seen everywhere. Zi Chen's arrival naturally attracted the attention of the crowd. For a moment, there was a commotion. It should be noted that Zi Chen's name had spread far and wide after he had defeated 5 Heaven Realm martial artists. When the disciples of the sword sect saw Zi Chen, they were very excited. From afar, they called him Senior Brother Zi Chen and stopped in their tracks. Although Zi Chen was not a disciple of the sword sect, Wang Xianer was. Therefore, everyone called him Senior Brother. After seeing everyone, Zi Chen nodded politely. He did not put on any airs. This made the others even more excited. Zi Chen walked into the mountain gate and saw a fake heavens. When he saw this fake heavens, Zi Chen felt that he looked familiar. The fake heavens came in front of Zi Chen and said respectfully, "Greetings, Senior Brother Zi Chen. I'm a swordsman. I've specially brought Senior Brother Zi Chen to Senior Sister Xian. Xian has come out of seclusion?" Zi Chen asked. "She came out a long time ago. She guessed that Senior Brother Zi Chen would definitely come back again, so she's waiting for you," the swordsman said respectfully. "Then bring me there," Zi Chen said. However, he still could not remember who the swordsman was. He only felt that he looked familiar. The last time he came to the sword sect, he saw many disciples of the sword sect. Many of them looked familiar. The two of them walked one after another. Wherever they passed, all the disciples bowed. This time, they were clearly taking a different path from the last time. Moreover, this path was a little remote. Along the way, they did not see any other disciples of the sword sect. After Senior Sister Xian came out of seclusion last time, everyone became very enthusiastic. Senior Sister Xian found it too noisy, so she specially found a secluded place, the swordsman said. "Where's Dongqing and Qingqing? Have they come out of seclusion?" "The 2 junior sisters have already come out of seclusion. Junior Sister Jean has successfully become a supreme of source energy. Junior Sister Dongqing is still a small step away from becoming a supreme." As a fake heavens, the swordsman could call Zi Chen and Xian senior sister. However, it was obvious that Jin Qingqing and Dongqing were not at this level yet. Zi Chen nodded. With resources, the two of them improved very quickly with their talent. After walking for a while, they arrived at an even more remote place. However, the environment was very beautiful. On an arched bridge, a middle-aged man stood. This person's back was facing Zi Chen. After hearing the sound, he turned around and glanced at the two of them. With a glance, Zi Chen seemed to see 2 cold saber lights piercing into his eyes, causing him to feel a slight, stinging pain in his eyes. However, the swordsman did not notice anything unusual and kept walking forward. Zi Chen followed behind and looked at the middle-aged man. The other party stood there with his back straight, like a sharp saber that had been unsheathed. At this moment, the two of them looked at each other. The latter nodded at Zi Chen. Zi Chen nodded in response and walked past him. For some reason, the aura that the middle-aged man exuded gave him a sense of déjà vu. This kind of existence was definitely an expert, but Zi Chen could not remember when he had seen him. Moreover, this swordsman also gave Zi Chen a sense of familiarity. Subconsciously, Zi Chen asked, "Have we met somewhere before?" The swordsman was slightly stunned, and his expression became complicated. He turned to look at Zi Chen and said, "Senior Brother Zi Chen, you're really forgetful." "Oh, so we've really met before." Zi Chen still could not remember who the other party was. Many years ago, when Senior Brother Zi Chen came to the sword sect for the first time, you slapped the fake Tian at the entrance. That fake Tian was me. My name is the swordsman. Senior Brother Zi Chen, have you forgotten? The swordsman's voice was very calm. There was a hint of indifference in this calmness. He was no longer as respectful as before. Zichen could now defeat the fake Tian. Under normal circumstances, the fake Tian would not dare to speak to Zichen with such an attitude. Even if he dared, he would not have such an expression. The middle-aged man behind him took a step sideways and stood in the middle of the small bridge, blocking Zichen's path. Immediately after, a fierce aura soared into the sky. The moment he sensed this aura, Zichen's expression changed drastically. He finally knew why he felt that the other party was familiar. Saber Spirit. The other party's aura was exactly the same as Saber Spirit's. In other words, this middle-aged man was not a human at all, but a heavenly weapon. The news of Zichen's arrival quickly spread. Wang Xian, who had come out of seclusion a long time ago, heard the news and came over with a look of joy. Beside her were Dongqing, Jiantong, and Jianbai. No, where's senior brother Zichen? The four of them were very puzzled as they did not see anyone along the way. Later, they pulled someone over to ask. Senior brother Zichen was taken away by the elder swordsman. Why did he leave with the elder swordsman? Of course, Wang Xian knew who the swordsman was. When she came out of seclusion, someone told her that Zichen had taught the swordsman a lesson. Oh no, Jianbai's expression changed drastically when he heard this. He cried out involuntarily, "The swordsman has been acting strangely recently. He often brings outsiders to the sword sect. He left with senior brother Zichen. Could it be that he's doing something bad to senior brother? Let's go and find them quickly." The sword sect was neither big nor small. It was easier said than done to find two people. Buzz. Chapter 1888. A light shield appeared out of nowhere in the sword sect, which attracted everyone's attention. Many figures rose into the air and stared at the light shield in the distance. When Wang Xian saw the familiar five-colored light, her face turned pale. That was the five elements energy that only the five elements aristocratic families had. She didn't expect the five elements aristocratic families to infiltrate the sword sect in order to target Zichen. What's going on? Where did the light shield come from? The entire sword sect was in chaos because of the appearance of the five elements light shield. It's the five elements light shield. Jiantong's face was pale and filled with despair. The appearance of the light shield meant that Zichen had been hit. It's that damn swordsman. He actually colluded with the five elements aristocratic families. Jian Mu gritted his teeth with a hint of self-blame in his eyes. The swordsman was targeting Zichen because he was still holding a grudge over what happened last time. The swordsman's original intention was to target Jian Mu. Let's go and find the patriarch. Let's go and find Master. When the light shield appeared, Zichen's fate was unknown. They immediately went deeper into the sword sect. Who dares to behave atrociously in my sword sect? A cold and indifferent voice suddenly sounded from the depths of the sword sect. After that, a powerful aura completely enveloped the sword sect. An aged old man soared into the sky and stood in midair as he gazed at the light barrier of the five elements. The old man stood in the air. Above his head, the space was distorted. The origin energy rose and fell like a dragon. He was tall and imposing, like the ruler of heaven and earth. He was a heaven realm expert. As soon as he appeared, two sword lights flashed in his eyes. The sharp sword intent proved his identity as a member of the sword sect, but no disciple of the sword sect recognized him. The entire sword sect became very depressed because of the old man's appearance. Everyone felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on their hearts. However, the eyes of all the disciples of the sword sect were filled with shock and surprise. It was because this was a heaven realm expert of the sword sect. Although the disciples of the sword sect had seen a fake heaven realm expert, it was their first time seeing a heaven realm expert. The difference in combat strength between the two was huge. This is a heaven realm expert of our sword sect. Jian Tong and Jian Mu were also stunned. It was also the first time that Wang Xian, and Dong Qing had seen a heaven realm existence. The shock in their eyes was no less than that of the others, but they soon heaved a sigh of relief. Since the sword sect heaven realm expert had made a move, Zichen would definitely not be in danger. Sword intent surged in the old man's eyes as he looked at the 5 elements light shield. The entire light barrier began to tremble as if it had been attacked. "Jiankong, long time no see." A voice suddenly sounded. A person appeared in front of the 5 elements light shield. This person wore a golden robe and had a slightly aged face. After he appeared, he took a step forward. Golden light surged above his head, and it was as if a golden dragon was swimming in space. Another wave of heaven realm pressure enveloped the entire sword sect. Heaven realm, it was heaven realm again. Heaven realm experts were rarely seen, but today 2 of them had appeared. The golden-robed heaven realm expert took a step forward. The void seemed to be unable to withstand the power of his body and trembled incessantly. However, behind him, the trembling light barrier stabilized. "It's you, Jin Chong. You're not dead yet." When the sword sect heaven realm expert saw the golden-robed heaven realm expert, his pupils constricted slightly as he spoke in a deep voice. "You're not dead either." The golden-robed heaven realm expert, Jin Chong, smiled faintly. "This time, you came to my sword sect to deal with a junior." Jian Kong questioned coldly. "This child is our old enemy. He must be eliminated." Jin Chang's voice also became cold. "This is the sword sect. If you make a move here, aren't you afraid that you won't be able to leave?" "It's precisely because this is the sword sect that I'm making a move. I believe that compared to the lives of a sect's disciples, a mere undying sovereign is nothing. This kind of simple choice is not difficult for the sword sect to make, right?" The 2 sides did not deliberately suppress their conversation. When they heard this, the expressions of all the sword sect disciples changed drastically. If a heaven realm expert wanted to kill someone, unless they were undying, they would not be able to escape. "You're threatening us in our sword sect's territory." Jian Kong's expression became very ugly. "It's not a threat. It's just a fact. Don't worry, the battle below will end very soon. It won't take too long. Perhaps it's already over now." Dong Qing's face turned pale. Wang Xian's face was filled with worry. She did not know how many heaven realm experts the 5 elements aristocratic families had sent to deal with Zichen this time. The situation was now clear. The heaven realm experts had seized this place as the foundation of the sword sect. They used many disciples to threaten them so that the experts of the sword sect did not dare to make a move. If Zichen wanted to escape, from the looks of it, he could only rely on himself. The swordsman directly revealed his identity. Zichen saw that the person beside him was a heaven-grade weapon. He immediately had a bad feeling in his heart. However, he really could not understand. Could it be that the sword sect wanted to deal with him because of this incident? But why didn't they make a move last time? Could it be that the swordsman's backer had only arrived recently? In the next moment, when a light shield appeared out of thin air, Zichen knew that he had been thinking too much. Looking at this 5 elements light shield, he knew that it was not the sword sect who wanted his life, but the swordsman alone. Ignoring the heaven-grade weapon behind him, Zichen glanced at the swordsman and said, "You will regret your decision today." "He won't regret it." A cold voice sounded. A female cultivator in a blue robe appeared out of thin air and stared coldly at Zichen. "It's you." Seeing this woman, Zichen was a little surprised. This person was the fake heaven realm expert from the Shui clan, whom he had intentionally let go last time. Back then, Zichen had intentionally let one of them go back to warn the 5 elements aristocratic families. In addition, the other party was a woman. Thus, Zichen decided to let her go. The swordsman came in front of this female cultivator, and the 2 of them fought side by side. From the fervent gaze in the swordsman's eyes, Zichen had already guessed what had happened. He touched his nose and was a little embarrassed. He did not expect that a Heaven Realm expert would still be unable to escape the temptation of beauty. Of course, ordinary beauty was not enough, but a fake Heaven Realm expert came knocking on his door. This kind of temptation was beyond Zichen's imagination. After the female cultivator, for more people walked out from the dark. The 5 of them stood in 5 directions. 5 elements combined attack? Looking in the direction where the 5 of them stood, Zichen looked at the female cultivator and mocked. "Have you forgotten what happened last time?" Suddenly, Zichen felt danger behind him. A light flashed under his feet, and he wanted to dodge to the side. Puffed! A saber light instantly swept past Zichen's body and split him in 2. Then the saber light quickly turned back and strangled Zichen's body dozens of times. Buzz! Zichen's body, which had been shattered, began to burn with flames. The raging flames of life emitted a blazing heat. The heaven-grade weapon transformed into a middle-aged man again and stood in front of Zichen, watching all of this coldly. The other 5 people took advantage of the time when Zichen was recovering. Pure energy surged out of their bodies and formed the 5 elements combined attack. Heavenly Thunder Wings. During the process of body reconstruction, Zichen shouted in a low voice. In his world, the Heavenly Thunder Wings immediately disappeared. Swoosh! The body reassembled, the flames disappeared, and the saber light slashed at Zichen again. The space distorted until it stopped, and the saber light's speed slowed down slightly. Zichen quickly retreated until his body hit the 5 elements combined attack. The heaven-grade weapon transformed into a human again. A hint of surprise flashed in its eyes. It did not expect Zichen to be able to dodge this attack. Zichen's face was very ugly. Previously, his attention was on the 5 people, and he did not pay attention to the heaven-grade weapon at all. In his opinion, the heaven-grade weapon should not take the initiative to attack without being controlled. However, it turned out that the heaven-grade weapon had its own independent mind and was not inferior to a real Heaven Realm expert. Swoosh! The middle-aged man moved again. He transformed into a long saber and swept toward Zichen. Zichen displayed his extreme speed and began to dodge. However, the difference between the 2 of them was almost 2 realms. Zichen had a hard time dodging, and his body was cut open 3 times in a row. The 5 people and the swordsman looked on coldly. In their eyes, Zichen was already a dead man. Now they were all waiting. They were waiting for Zichen's injuries to worsen so that they could completely seal him. Zichen's face was slightly pale. This was because his life force was being extinguished. At this moment, he personally felt the power of the heaven-grade weapon. It could indeed extinguish life force. "Let's see how long you can last," the middle-aged man said coldly. His body transformed into a heaven-grade weapon again. At the same time, the 5 people began to form seals. The power of the 5 elements filled the formation. Zichen felt a great pressure appear. This pressure seriously affected his speed. Thunder saber manipulation. A cold light flashed in Zichen's eyes. The saber spirit in the world turned into a cold light and collided with the heaven-grade weapon coming toward him. At the same time, Zichen retreated and came to the front of the Hua family's pseudo-heaven. He activated the extreme speed movement techniques, space freeze. At the moment of space freeze, Zichen punched the Hua family's expert in the face, blowing him up with 1 punch. Then the alchemy cauldron appeared and directly covered the opponent's body, regardless of whether the opponent could recover or not. By the time he fully recovered, he had already fallen into the alchemy cauldron. Zichen already had experience dealing with this kind of 5 elements combination attack. At this time, the 2 heaven-grade weapons collided with each other, erupting with a destructive power. This power spread in all directions. The other 4 pseudo-heavens were directly swept away by the energy and were sent flying. The swordsman who was outside the formation was also swept away. After the violent energy came into contact with the formation outside, the energy gradually dissipated. Everyone raised their heads and looked forward. They saw Zichen standing in the air. On Zichen's left was the cauldron of all things burning with flames, and on his right was a palm-sized spiritual doll. Opposite him was the middle-aged man, formed by the heaven-grade weapon. His eyes widened as he looked at the spiritual doll with shock. "Why do you also have a heaven-grade weapon?" The spiritual doll instantly turned into a small knife and revolved around Zichen. Zichen sneered. "Why can't I have a heaven-grade weapon?" "What, a heaven-grade weapon? That's a heaven-grade weapon." The other 5 were stunned. A heaven-grade weapon was even rarer than a heaven-grade weapon. In order to deal with Zichen this time, the 5 Elements aristocratic family took out a heaven-grade weapon and sent a heaven-grade weapon. It was already very impressive. However, they didn't expect that Zichen actually had a heaven-grade weapon. What was even more unexpected was that Zichen could actually use a heaven-grade weapon. Let's end this. Chapter 1889. Jian Kong stood in the air and looked at Jin Chong in front of him. He said coldly, "Even if the 5 Elements aristocratic family comes in full force, our sword sect is not afraid at all. Jin Chong, you will pay the price today." Jin Chong smiled indifferently. "Unless you ask everyone in sword sect to retreat now and then activate the sect protecting formation, you will be able to keep me here." Jin Chong pointed behind him and said, "All right, you might need to be faster because the battle below will end very soon." The disciples already knew that the 5 Elements aristocratic family was targeting Zichen. At this moment, they were very worried, especially when they found out that it was the sword sect who betrayed Zichen. They felt very ashamed. It had been some time since Jin Chong said that the battle would end very soon. During this time, all the disciples of sword sect retreated to the back. During this time, many pseudo-heavens came forward and surrounded Jin Chong. It was an extremely long process to activate the sect-protecting formation. Moreover, there were pros and cons to activating the sect-protecting formation. Once it was activated, all the disciples of sword sect would not be able to leave. Once the 2 sides started fighting, the weaker disciples of sword sect would definitely suffer heavy casualties. Jin Chong was indifferent to this. However, the battle below did not end for a long time, which made him slightly dissatisfied. "It's useless. The battle will end very soon." Jin Chong glanced at the pseudo-heavens around him and said indifferently. This was the 4th time Jin Chong had spoken in the same tone. Jian Kong said indifferently, "I've heard this sentence too many times." Jin Chong curled his lips and snorted. "Humph, it's just a mere undying sovereign." Jian Kong sneered. "It said that this undying sovereign broke through your 5 Elements combined attack and even killed 4 of you." Jin Chong continued, "This time, even if he has extraordinary means, he will still be killed." Jian Kong did not comment. "I don't believe that he can block the heavenly soldiers," Jin Chong said coldly. "Heavenly soldiers." Jian Kong was moved. His voice spread far and wide, causing an uproar. Dong Qing and Wang Xian, Er's faces turned pale. They did not expect that in order to kill Zichen, the 5 Elements aristocratic family not only sent out Heaven Realm experts, but also heavenly soldiers. "I brought a heaven-grade weapon with me this time. I think that guy called Zichen has already been—" Jin Chong appeared to be extremely confident. In an era where saints did not appear, who in this world could go against the heavenly soldiers? Bang! But before he could finish speaking, there was an explosion from below. The light barrier shattered, and 2 figures rushed out from it. Upon seeing the 2 figures, cries of surprise rang out from the distance. Of the 2 figures, one belonged to Zichen, and the other belonged to the sword sect swordsman. At this moment, he was grabbed by the collar by Zichen, and his face was filled with despair. "Zichen, it's Senior Zichen. That's right, it's Senior Zichen." I never expected that the Five Elements aristocratic family would be unable to do anything to senior brother Zichen, even after using heavenly soldiers. Cries rang out one after another. When Wang Xian, and Dong Qing saw Zichen, they heaved a huge sigh of relief in their hearts. With the sword sect heavenly realm expert around, Jin Chong would no longer be able to threaten Zichen. Seeing Zichen appear with the swordsman, Jian Kong was stunned at first. Then he smiled and looked at Zichen with a gratified expression. To be able to break through such a deliberate scheme, it was clear that Zichen was extraordinary. Jin Chong was completely stunned. Then he released his spiritual senses, but the other 5 people were gone. He was moved and said, "You actually came out. Even the heavenly soldiers can't do anything to you. It's just a heavenly soldier." Zichen smiled faintly and turned his head to look forward. He could tell that Jian Kong was a sword sect master at a glance. He shook his hand and threw the swordsman over, saying, "I'll leave him to you guys." Jian Kong subconsciously caught the swordsman. The latter did not resist at all during this process. At this moment, the swordsman's eyes were filled with despair. In the beginning, the people from the Five Elements aristocratic families vowed that they would definitely be able to take down Zichen this time, as long as Zichen died. Even if the sword sect was angry, they would not vent their anger on him. This was because he was a pseudo-heaven realm expert who might enter the heavenly realm in the future. His value was much higher than a dead person. However, after the battle began, other than the heavenly soldier surprise attack that caused some damage to Zichen, Zichen completely dominated the rest of the battle. If not for the heavenly soldiers restraining Zichen midway, the 5 pseudo-heaven realm experts would not have been able to last more than 5 rounds against Zichen. However, even with the heavenly soldiers, the 5 of them entered the cauldron of creation one after another. Although they were not dead for the time being, it was not much different from being dead. Even the heavenly soldiers could not do anything to Zichen. Who could kill Zichen? The swordsman was in complete despair. If Zichen did not die, he would die. Jian Kong glanced at the swordsman indifferently. He looked at Zichen and said, "Don't worry, we will definitely take care of this matter." Zichen, step back. Leave the rest to the sword sect. These words meant that the sword sect wanted to protect Zichen, even at the expense of offending the 5 Elements aristocratic families. This was originally a grudge between me and Zichen. Since the sword sect wants to interfere, I'd like to see how many people you can send to their deaths. As soon as Jin Chong finished speaking, a figure rushed out from below. When it arrived in front of Jin Chong, the figure turned into a long saber. The long saber was a heavenly soldier. As a heaven realm expert, Jin Chong held the heavenly soldier in his hand and released an even more powerful, oppressive, and terrifying aura. This aura spread out and enveloped the entire sword sect. All the disciples of the sword sect raised their heads and looked at the figure. It was as if they had seen the ruler of the world. They felt so small, like ants that could die at any time with a thought. The sword sect will never be threatened. Jian Kong's attitude was still unyielding. He took a step forward and the void trembled. This represented the dignity of the sword sect. He would definitely not retreat. Sword intent filled the air and shook the void. "Then make your move." The heavenly blade in Jin Chang's hand trembled slightly. With him as the center, the surrounding void instantly shattered into a black hole. The buildings below that had not been damaged were also turned into dust and disappeared in the next moment. This was a destructive scene, but there was no destructive aura surging. Everything seemed to have happened naturally. The strength of the heaven realm was terrifying. If Jin Chong really wanted to kill, everyone below the undying sovereign realm would probably die today. "You're right. This is a grudge between you and me. We'll settle this matter ourselves." Zichen's voice sounded. Zichen. Jian Kong looked at Zichen. All the disciples of the sword sect looked at Zichen in a daze. Zichen turned around and looked at Jian Kong. He said, This matter has nothing to do with the sword sect. I hope you don't interfere. I'll settle it myself." Jin Chong smiled coldly and did not answer. This was the result he wanted. Jian Kong opened his mouth, wanting to say something. The disciples of the sword sect were filled with guilt. Obviously, Zichen did this to protect them. "Let's go and fight above." Zichen took a step forward and flew into the sky. "You don't know what's good for you." Jin Chong held the heavenly weapon and followed him. The disciples of the sword sect raised their heads, their faces full of guilt and worry. Jian Kong leaped up and prepared to watch the battle from the side. He was ready to help at any time. Suddenly, exclamations came from below. In the sky, Jin Chong had already made his move. A cold blade light arrived in front of Zichen at an unimaginable speed and instantly crushed his body. In the sky, Zichen's body shattered and blood rained down. Jin Chong stood with the heavenly weapon with a faint hint of mockery on his face. He was just an undying sovereign. Did he really think he was a big shot? He actually dared to provoke the dignity of the heaven realm. The flames burned, and Zichen was reborn in the fire of life. The attack of the heaven realm was too fast for him to dodge. This kind of gap between the realms was simply impossible to make up for. Not to mention that the other party had a heavenly weapon. Seeing Zichen's body being reborn, Jin Chong sneered and said, "Let's see how long you can last." Each of his attacks could obliterate Zichen's vitality. There would always be a time when he could kill Zichen. Zichen shook his head. He knew that with his current strength, he couldn't do anything to the other party. Fortunately, his world origin had almost grown, and it was time for him to be recognized by this world. After making up his mind, Zichen took a step forward. Lightning flashed on his body, and a powerful aura was released. He looked up at the sky and opened his mind, ready to accept the recognition of the rules of the Zhanwu continent. The clouds in the sky were torn apart by a mysterious force. The entire sky distorted and began to rotate. Then the sky was torn apart, and a black vortex appeared. The moment the vortex appeared, a terrifying heavenly might appeared and pressed down on everyone, causing their hearts to tremble. Zichen had only taken a step forward, and such a strange phenomenon had occurred between heaven and earth. No one understood what was going on. He's going to break through. Jian Kong, who was in the heaven realm, was also puzzled at this moment. This kind of situation was something they had never seen before. It didn't look like the pseudo-heaven realm, nor did it look like the heaven realm. Instead, it looked like the formation of a heavenly soldier. It took a long time to describe, but in fact, everything happened very quickly. Zichen took a step forward, and the world changed. A pressure appeared, and from the black hole, a pure light of the origin shot out. That was the real battle origin, something that all pseudo-heavens dreamed of. Once one could completely comprehend this origin, they would be able to enter the heaven realm. At this moment, the origin descended from the sky and fell on Zichen. This made people wonder if Zichen was going to enter the heaven realm. Zichen had indeed entered the heaven realm, but it was not the real heaven realm, but a pseudo-heaven. At this moment, the aura released from his body was the real pseudo-heaven aura, much stronger than before. After feeling this aura, Zichen also breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, he was still walking his own path. At this moment, the origin had descended, and it was more like the lightning tribulation in the past. He had obtained the recognition of the world. Pseudo-heaven, how could it be a pseudo-heaven? In the field, the cultivators who had some understanding of the heaven realm were very puzzled. Under normal circumstances, Zichen had already entered the heaven realm, the real heaven realm. This abnormality was puzzling. However, Zichen was very satisfied with this. His Tao was his world, not the world of martial arts. The origin disappeared, the black hole disappeared, and heaven and earth returned to normal. Zichen stood in the air, and the pseudo-heaven aura around him resisted Jin Chong, who was facing him. The sword spirit flapped its wings and appeared in front of Zichen. Zichen glanced at the puzzled Jin Chang, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 1890. Stepping into the pseudo-heaven, Zichen used the thunder saber manipulation. The saber spirit turned into a ray of light and headed straight for Jin Chang. The latter sensed it and shouted. He slashed forward with his saber. The saber light tore through space, trying to block Zichen's attack. Uffed! However, he had seriously underestimated the speed of the thunder saber manipulation. Before the saber light slashed down, the saber spirit had already rushed forward and pierced through Jin Chang's glabella. The powerful force directly pierced through Jin Chang's glabella. At the same time, Jin Chang was sent flying backward. The sword sect disciples below were all dumbfounded when they saw the scene. Before they could recover from the shock of Zichen entering the pseudo-heaven, they saw Zichen send Jin Chang flying with a single move. This is a heavenly weapon. In the distance, Jian Kong's pupils constricted as he shouted in a low voice. He was still guessing what method Zichen had used to break the sure-kill trap of the 5 elements aristocratic families. Now that he saw this small saber, he immediately understood. What, a heavenly weapon? The one in senior brother Zichen's hand is also a heavenly weapon. It's so small. How can it be a heavenly weapon? Jian Kong did not suppress his voice. When the sword sect disciples heard it, they exclaimed again. This saber was not fatal, but it made Jin Chang's expression very ugly. He stared at Zichen and said coldly, "No wonder you're so arrogant. So you're relying on a heavenly weapon, but noisy." Before Jin Chang could finish his words, Zichen's expression immediately became impatient. With a thought, the saber spirit flashed again and headed straight for Jin Chang. Damn it! Jin Chang cursed angrily and pointed forward. A battle origin descended from the sky and blocked in front of him. At the same time, he held the saber in his hand and retreated. Uffed! The saber spirit instantly pierced through the battle origin. Its speed did not decrease at all as it headed straight for Jin Chang. Jin Chang's expression changed. The battle origin quickly turned into a palm print in front of him and rushed towards the saber spirit. Uffed! However, this level of attack had no effect on the saber spirit. The saber spirit easily passed through the palm print and headed straight for Jin Chang. Die! Jin Chang's figure disappeared in an instant and reappeared behind Zichen. The long saber in his hand slashed viciously at Zichen. His expression was cold, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. This attack contained his full strength. The spectators below subconsciously cried out in alarm, because Zichen still hadn't reacted. Pooh! Just as the saber was about to land, the void was torn apart. The saber spirit appeared and flew out with Jin Chang's body. This was the second time he had been attacked. As he flew backwards, his body exploded with a loud bang. He had suffered a serious injury. Zichen, who was hovering in the air, turned around. His expression was cold, but his heart was filled with surprise. After entering the pseudo-heaven, he could be considered to have truly begun to use the thunder saber manipulation. He found that the saber spirit's lock was even more powerful than the dragon god's arrow. It directly locked onto his vitality. As long as this person was alive, he would be locked onto. Just like before, Jin Chang had already dodged. If it were the dragon god's arrow, it would have returned empty-handed. However, the saber spirit disappeared and chased after him with his vitality. After his body was reassembled, Jin Chang's face was obviously pale. He looked at Zichen with eyes full of disbelief. Again, Zichen shouted coldly. The thunder saber manipulation attacked again, locking onto Jin Chang's vitality. Go! Jin Chang gritted his teeth and directly let go of the long saber in his hand. The long saber instantly turned into a ray of light and chased after the saber spirit. But it was useless. The speed of the saber spirit far exceeded that of the long saber. The two were not on the same level at all. The saber spirit easily broke through Jin Chang's defense. Then the destructive power, along with the destructive power contained in the saber spirit, all entered Jin Chang's body, trying to destroy his vitality. Bang! Out of self-protection, Jin Chang's body, which had just been reassembled, exploded again. The long saber was too slow to catch up with the saber spirit. However, the latter also had good intelligence and decided to kill Zichen first. Swoosh! The thunder wings on Zichen's back flapped. The long saber's forward speed was greatly reduced, as if it had entered a swamp. With the long saber as the center, Zichen's figure kept changing. The space here was almost completely in a state of static. Now, Zichen was one level higher than before. At this moment, after showing extreme speed, he was able to suppress the heavenly soldier. In a situation where the space was completely still, the heavenly soldier was still moving forward, but its speed was very slow. A cold light flashed in Zichen's eyes, and the alchemy cauldron appeared in his hand. Today, after breaking through, Zichen not only wanted to leave the heavenly realm behind, but he also wanted to leave this heavenly soldier behind. It just so happened that his scabbard was still missing a heavenly soldier like this. The alchemy cauldron appeared, and a suction force came from the mouth of the cauldron. The dragon's roar was heard, and many fire dragons ignored the static space and went straight to the heavenly soldier's long saber. Wrapped around the long saber, the fire dragons began to exert force, trying to suck in the heavenly soldier. The long saber seemed to feel threatened. The body of the saber instantly shook, and the surrounding space was shattered. Similarly, the fire dragons were also shattered and turned into boundless flames. However, the flames quickly reformed and turned into a new fire dragon, firmly wrapped around the heavenly soldier. The heavenly soldier appeared in human form. His expression was cold as he looked at the fire dragons around him. The energy around him shook again, and then a sharp blade came out. At the moment when the fire dragons were shattered, the blade began to spin violently. A huge black hole was torn open in the space. The blade directly entered the black hole and disappeared. This scene happened so quickly that Zichen did not have time to react. It could be said that the moment Zichen took out the alchemy cauldron, the heavenly soldier's long saber had the idea of escaping instead of fighting against Zichen. Swoosh! The disappeared heavenly soldier appeared again, but this time it was several miles away. After reappearing, it immediately rushed towards Jin Chang, but this time the heavenly soldier clearly had the upper hand. Boom! The heavenly soldier's long saber arrived in front of Jin Chang, and a wave of energy wrapped around Jin Chang. Then, a huge black hole appeared where the blade pointed. The blade wrapped around Jin Chang's body and entered the black hole. The saber spirit turned into a beam of light and rushed in. Then, the saber spirit appeared dozens of miles away and returned to Zichen's side. As for Jin Chang, he had disappeared. The previous battle was dazzling and it was very fast. Apart from some pseudo-heaven and Jian Kong, who could clearly see what was happening, the others could only see a moving shadow. In the end, Jin Chang's shadow disappeared. Everyone waited for dozens of breaths, but they did not see Jin Chang's figure. They were puzzled. Amazing, really amazing. Jian Kong praised and said, I didn't expect that a heaven realm cultivator with a heavenly soldier would be beaten away by you. Hearing this, everyone was in an uproar. Only then did they understand that Jin Chang had run away. Zichen, a pseudo-heaven, had beaten away Jin Chang, a heaven realm cultivator. As expected, no matter which realm Zichen was in, he was an extremely extraordinary existence. Hearing the cheers coming from below, Zichen was not happy at all. He was not sure if this time, when he beat away heaven realm cultivator Jin Chang with a pseudo-heaven realm cultivation, they would associate him with his identity as a heaven-defying realm cultivator. If the other party did not have a heavenly soldier, Zichen was very confident that he could completely keep Jin Chang here. After Zichen broke through to the pseudo-heaven realm, the once insufferably arrogant Heaven Realm cultivator had become insignificant. When Jin Chang escaped, the entire sect cheered. Compared to the excitement of the crowd, the swordsman, who was guarded by several pseudo-Heaven Realm cultivators, was truly desperate. Even Jin Chang had run away, and his last hope was gone. What awaited him next was naturally the punishment of the sword sect. In the sky, Zichen cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for your help, Senior." Jian Kong waved his hand and said, "My name is Jian Kong." Zichen, you and I are of the same generation. In the entire cultivation world, strength represented everything. Zichen was able to beat Jin Chang, and his combat strength was not weaker than Jian Kong's. Such an expert was worthy of respect. Zichen did not dwell on all of this. He nodded and looked down. At a glance, he saw Wang Xianer. The two of them had experienced many life and death situations, so there was naturally nothing to hide. Wang Xian directly soared into the sky and pounced on Zichen. Zichen opened his arms and hugged Wang Xian, under the witness of all the disciples and elders of the sword sect. A beauty in the arms of another. This was a scene that would make people jealous, but at this moment no one was jealous. Only a hero was worthy of a beauty. This scene would only make people wish them well. A faint smile appeared on Jin Qingqing's scarred face. Now, she was also silently wishing the two of them. Dongqing had a smile on her face, but this smile was somewhat unnatural. She also wished the two of them well. "I'm sorry to have made you worry again." Zichen gently patted Xian Er's back. "I'm not worried." Xian quietly wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. All the sounds around them fell silent. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. It was as if there were only two of them in this world. After a long time, the two of them separated and descended hand in hand. Seeing Jin Qingqing and Dongqing, Zichen's face was filled with joy. He said, "Long time no see." "Long time no see." Dongqing lowered her head shyly and said softly, "You're stronger than before. The gap between us is getting bigger." Jin Qingqing met Zichen's gaze and faced him calmly. "Good luck," Zichen encouraged. Beside the two of them were Jian Tong and Jian Mu. At this moment, Jian Mu's face was filled with shame. Zichen knew the reason for his shame and joked. "Why haven't you broken through to the pseudo-Heaven Realm yet? You're one step behind me." Senior Zichen, Jian Mu's face was apologetic. Clearly, he was about to apologize, but Zichen waved his hand and interrupted him. "This matter has nothing to do with you. Don't blame yourself." Jian Mu looked at Zichen gratefully. At this time, for pseudo-Heaven Realm experts, pulled the swordsman to Zichen. One of them said, "Senior Zichen, how should we deal with this traitor?" Zichen glanced at the swordsman. The latter's face was ashen. When he saw Zichen's gaze, he did not beg for mercy. Clearly, he had accepted his fate. "Do as you see fit," Zichen said lightly. He was now a pseudo-Heaven Realm expert. Those who could match him were all Heaven Realm experts. For someone like the swordsman, Zichen did not care at all. The swordsman was taken away. Next, it was naturally up to the sword sect to deal with him. As for how, Zichen was too lazy to care. Chapter 1891. After the battle, the sword sect's disciples dispersed. Today's battle would tell the entire Jianwu continent that Zichen had strength comparable to the Heaven Realm. In this battle, the sword sect's sect master and Wang Xian, Er's master, did not appear. They were currently in seclusion, trying to break through to the Heaven Realm. Zichen followed Xian back to their residence. Jin Qingqing and Dongqing followed behind. Xian kept talking, seeming very excited. After sitting down, Jin Qingqing looked at Zichen and asked, "You've already entered the pseudo-Heaven Realm, and your combat strength is comparable to the Heaven Realm. You're completely at the peak of the Jianwu continent. What do you plan to do next?" Dongqing and Wang Xian also looked at Zichen. Zichen answered without hesitation, Return to the martial heaven continent. Return to the martial heaven continent. Jin Qingqing and Dong Qing were startled. They had followed Zichen for a long time, and they were very clear about the martial heaven continent's environment. The spiritual qi there was not enough for the earth realm. I'm from the martial heaven continent. If I want to enter the heaven realm, I have to return there, explained Zichen. The two of them nodded. They had just met, and now they were going to be separated. Naturally, they were not in a good mood. Zichen looked at the two of them and said, "This time, I'll take Sienna with me. We'll be trying to break through to the heaven realm in the martial heaven continent. We won't come here for a long time. The two of you have to work hard in the future and try to enter the heaven realm as soon as possible so that you can protect yourselves in the war." War? Protect ourselves? The two of them did not understand. The world is warning that a golden age is coming. It also indicates that danger is coming. The outsiders are our greatest enemy. They might invade again. Is this news confirmed? It was the lightning saint beast who told me. This was something Zichen had thought of long ago. He would use the lightning saint beast's name to cover everything. The two of them nodded solemnly. The invasion of the outsiders was a disaster for the entire world. In front of such a disaster, love seemed insignificant. Zichen did not plan to stay here for too long. He signaled Xian to go find Longhu and then head to the Wuji sect together. While Xian was looking for Longhu, Jiankong came to look for Zichen. He was the only heaven realm expert currently guarding the sword sect. Zichen, I've come to look for you this time because I feel that there are a few suspicious points in this battle. Jiankong went straight to the point and directly stated his intentions. What is it? Zichen asked. I know that Jinchong very well. He belongs to the older generation in the heaven realm. In this battle, he did not display his true strength. That celestial armament was obviously not his, and he could not unleash the true power of the celestial armament. But as far as I know, he knows great path techniques. To the heaven realm, great path techniques are almost the same as celestial armaments, but he did not use them. Zichen listened quietly. Of course, you might have attacked too quickly, causing him to be unable to use his strongest technique. However, I want to say that in the future, when you encounter a heaven realm cultivator, you must not be careless. In the eyes of cultivators, heaven realm cultivators are equivalent to the real heavens. Jin Chong was indeed holding a grudge, as he did not have the chance to use many of his moves. However, Zichen, who was in the pseudo-heaven realm, was not afraid of Jin Chong at all. That being said, the heavenly saber's decisiveness in retreating had indeed made Zichen suspicious. What is a heavenly Dao art? There was no answer to Jin Chang's question, but Zichen was able to learn the heavenly Dao art from Jiankong. The heavenly Dao art is a great path technique, created by following the path of the heavenly Dao. It is said that some geniuses were able to create their own great path techniques, but most of the great path techniques are inherited. For example, the great path techniques of the sword sect are suitable for the sword sect's sword intent, while the great path techniques of the 5 elements clans are perfectly compatible with the origin of the 5 elements. That means the great path techniques are limited. The great path techniques of the sword sect can only be used by the people of the sword sect. That's right, even if someone else obtains it and is able to execute it, they won't be able to unleash the true power of the great path techniques. Jiankong looked at Zichen and said, I heard that you are from the Thunder Clan. You have to go to the Thunder Clan to find the great path techniques that belong to you. Speaking of the Thunder Clan, no one was more knowledgeable than the Thunder Sacred Beast. Unfortunately, one could not use the great path techniques before reaching the heaven realm. This was the rule. As for Zichen being able to use Extreme Yang, it was purely because Extreme Yang was one of the cultivation methods that Zichen cultivated. He had been in contact with it since he was in the human realm, so he could use it. If Zichen was given another great path technique of the Thunder Clan, even with Zichen's current realm, he would not be able to use it. This was the limitation of the Great Path techniques. Before using it, one must first obtain the approval of this world. For example, Zichen already had the strength of a pseudo-heaven realm, but he had to obtain the approval of the world's origin to become a pseudo-heaven realm in this world and possess the aura of a pseudo-heaven realm. The golden age is coming, and the danger is coming. The sword sect should be ready, right? Zichen, who no longer cared about the Great Path techniques, said, "Danger? What danger?" Jian Kong looked at Zichen, wanting to see some emotional fluctuations on his face. Zichen shook his head and said, "I'm not too sure either. It said that it's a foreign race. I just overheard it." "Overheard it? Who did you hear it from?" Jian Kong continued to ask. "The Thunder Sacred Beast." This was the answer that Zichen had thought of a long time ago. He intended to remind the Sword Sect, but he did not want to expose his identity, so he brought up the Thunder Sacred Beast. For those forces with a long history, the name of the Thunder Sacred Beast was like thunder to their ears. Everyone knew about it. Lord Saint is still alive. Jian Kong was very surprised. "I was seriously injured and my realm dropped. I just returned to the Heaven Realm. I'm currently thinking of a way to break through to the Saint Realm," Zichen said truthfully. "Since it's what Lord Saint said, it naturally can't be false. This time, the Golden Age has suddenly arrived. Our sword sect also felt it, but we don't dare to be sure. As a result, all the cultivators of our sect must go into seclusion until the Great War arrives." Seeing Jian Kong sigh, Zichen said, "I'm not sure about that. I just heard a few words. Moreover, even if the foreign race invades, they won't come for a while. There's no need to make such a fuss." Jian Kong shook his head and said, "Zichen, you don't know. The foreign race is our biggest disaster. They appeared here to destroy." "Just to destroy? Is there nothing else they want?" Zichen asked. In the Tianwu continent, the devil race was an alien race. Back then, when everyone talked about the devil race, they said that the devil race was here to destroy and kill. However, the truth was that the devil race was here to survive. In the Jianwu continent, Zichen once again saw the foreign race and heard that they were here to destroy. But what about Ling Shuang? She was also a foreign race. Could it be that she came to the Jianwu continent to destroy? Facing Zichen's question, Jian Kong said, "I've read in some ancient books that destruction is indeed a major factor in the invasion of the foreign race. However, when I was young, I heard my elders mention it once. It's said that it's also the reason for the invasion of the foreign race." Zichen looked at Jian Kong, waiting for him to continue. "It's said that the other reason for the invasion is to enter the Lightning Divine Palace," Jian Kong said seriously. "Lightning Divine Palace." Zichen's expression changed. "Why, you know about it." Jian Kong looked at Zichen in surprise. "I've been there before." "What?" Jian Kong cried out in surprise, his face filled with disbelief. One had to know that Jian Kong had been in the Heaven Realm for a long time, but the Lightning Divine Palace had always been a legendary existence to him. Moreover, it was said that no one who entered the Lightning Divine Palace survived. Back then, my realm was too weak and I was tricked. After I entered, I was lucky to not die. Zichen briefly explained the matter of entering the Lightning Divine Palace. Longhu forcefully came out of seclusion. He had already broken through to the Undying Realm and was currently trying to break through to the Pseudo-Heaven Realm. Before he came, he had heard about the battle between Zichen and the Heaven Realm experts. He was extremely shocked. Jian Kong bade farewell and left with Wang Xian. At the same time, Zichen informed him that he was leaving as well. This surprised Jian Kong. He thought that Zichen would stay here for a long time. Zichen said that he wanted to return to the Sky Martial Continent to break through to the Heaven Realm. Jian Kong did not ask him to stay any longer. He then said that he would use the name of the Sword Sect to instruct the entire Fourth Mainland to be on guard in order to deal with the upcoming battle. The three of them left. When the crowd heard that they were sending them off, they were extremely reluctant. Chen had only stayed here for less than a day. Chen waved at Jin Qingqing and Dongqing, saying, "We'll meet again if fate allows." The two of them nodded. Tears instantly fell from the corner of Dongqing's eyes. "You can actually bring her along." Wang Xian said on the way. Chen naturally knew who Xian was talking about. He shook his head and said, "This world is more suitable for her." During his conversation with the old farmer and the lightning's sacred beast, Chen knew that everyone had to find their roots before breaking through to the heaven realm. The old farmer had already told Chen the answer that Xingdao Li could not find back then. However, not every cultivator had to make a trip to the Sky Martial continent before entering the heaven realm to find the roots of the world. Xingdao Li was born in the Sky Martial continent. To him, the Sky Martial continent was his foundation. Dongqing was born in the Zhanwu continent. This was his foundation. If Xingdao Li had not broken through yet, Chen believed that he could help him break through with just a word. Just as Chen left the Sword Sect, the news of Chen fighting against the Heaven Realm expert spread. Soon after, this news spread throughout the Zhanwu continent. To the Zhanwu continent, Chen's current reputation could be said to be the best of the entire continent. He went to the Sword Sect again and broke through to the pseudo-heaven realm. It seems that Chen is really preparing to go back this time. Let's go. We'll go directly to the first continent. After the monk heard the news, he called Devil Ape, LV Peng, and Zhang Haoyan to the first continent. They had already guessed that Chen was preparing to return to the Sky Martial continent. The three of them came from the fourth continent to the third continent. There were more resources here, so it was naturally more prosperous. After the three of them entered the city, they did not stop and went straight to the interdomain teleportation formation. Just as the three of them were about to step into the teleportation formation, a cold voice suddenly rang out, "Wait, stop!" The three of them turned around and looked behind them. A young man stood there. The young man was wearing a luxurious purple robe. The purple robe was embedded with bright gems. Under the sunlight, the gems emitted a resplendent light. Looking at the purple robe, Chen's expression changed slightly. Under his spiritual sense, he discovered that this purple robe was equivalent to a supreme weapon. Chapter 1892. Each gem on the robe contained a powerful energy ripple, which could be used to defend or attack at a crucial moment. It was a rare Nine Heavens supreme artifact. Even some pseudo-heavenly realm cultivators would be envious of it. The young man walked forward. The gems on his robe swayed as he walked, emitting a brilliant glow. He wore a gentle smile as he stared at Wang Xian, with his bright eyes. Behind him were two cold-looking men. They stood 9 meters away from the young man, maintaining the same distance. The young man ignored Chen and Long Hu. He went up to Wang Xian, and brought his fists together. He bowed and said, "I'm Luo Yao. May I know your name?" Long Hu frowned. He was not fond of the young man and snapped, "Piss off." The two men behind the young man stared at Long Hu coldly. At that instant, Long Hu felt a great pressure. The young man remained calm as he said to Wang Xian, "It's my first time seeing such an impolite dog. If you don't mind, I can teach him a lesson." "He's my friend," Wang Xian said coldly. She was not too pleased with the young man's behavior. "Piss off." Long Hu snapped and waved his sleeves. A wisp of primary energy was summoned and directed at the young man. Buzz! A gem on the young man's body glowed, forming a barrier. The young man stood still inside the barrier, allowing the energy to wreak havoc in the surroundings. The young man frowned slightly, as if he was displeased with Long Hu's behavior. How bold! The two men behind him immediately made their moves and charged at Long Hu. Bang! Bang! 2 energy explosions rang out in an instant, forming 2 energy ripples that spread out in all directions. Wherever the energy ripples went, the buildings would silently disappear. Some of the cultivators who were caught in the energy ripples were reduced to smithereens before disappearing as well. Such a scene caused cries of alarm to ring out in all directions. One by one, the nearby cultivators began to back up and look in shock. Zichen, who was initially standing at the back, was now standing in front of Longhu and Wang Xian. Meanwhile, the two men who were charging at Longhu were knocked flying. Their faces were filled with astonishment too. "Let's go." Zichen glanced at the young man whose expression remained unchanged and turned to leave. "You hurt my people. Do you think you can still leave?" The young man spoke with a hint of coldness in his voice. "What do you want?" Zichen looked back at the young man and asked calmly. The young man pointed at Wang Xian and said, "It's simple. If you want to settle this matter, make her my Tao companion. You don't have to do it for too long, just 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, if she is willing to return, you guys can come and bring her back. Remember, my name is Luo Yao. I'm from the Luo family of the Third Mainland." "Luo Yao, it's actually Luo Yao. It's over. Why is this fiend here? Wasn't he in seclusion? Why is he here?" "He has been in seclusion for a long time. He must have broken through." "He broke through? How is that possible? Could it be that he has already entered the false heaven realm? These 3 people are done for. Hurry up and agree with him. Otherwise, none of them will live." Some whispers came from afar. Both Zichen and Luo Yao heard these words clearly. Luo Yao, who was already arrogant, became even more complacent. Luo Yao looked at Zichen and said proudly, "Even if you were in the heaven realm, you would still have to make this choice." The Zhanwu continent was divided into 9 mainlands. Many years ago, the resources on the 9 mainlands were the same. At that time, many aristocratic families were spread across the 9 mainlands. However, as time passed and war broke out, the amount of resources on the mainlands decreased. After every world extermination battle, the aristocratic families would change their locations again in order to develop and move to other mainlands that suffered less damage. As for the Luo family, it was a family with a long history. It had experienced many world extermination battles. Although it wasn't as famous as the 5 Elements aristocratic families, compared to the 5 Elements aristocratic families that originated from the Tianwu continent, the Luo family was considered a local power on the Zhanwu continent. The 2 men who were sent flying by Zichen immediately rushed to Luo Yao and looked at Zichen with fear. In just one exchange, they could already see the difference between the 2 sides. "Make your choice. My time is precious." Luo Yao spoke again, not realizing the seriousness of the situation. Thus Zichen made his choice. He stepped forward, his body shining with golden light. One on the left and one on the right, 2 fists of light shot toward the 2 pseudo-heavens. Bang! Bang! The 2 had expected this and used their energy to block, but it was useless. Among those in the same realm, no one dared to challenge Zichen. Following 2 explosions, the 2 pseudo-heavens were sent flying. In the process of flying backward, their bodies instantly exploded. Buzz! The void shook, and the cauldron appeared and flew toward the 2 pseudo-heavens. The moment Luo Yao saw the cauldron, his pupils shrank. He shouted, "Universe Origin Cauldron, damn it! Stop!" His figure flashed, wanting to block the Universe Origin Cauldron. Zichen was the first to arrive in front of the other party. He threw a punch at the other party's face. A gem on Luo Yao's body glowed, forming a defense in front of him. Bang! The fist light fell, and the light shield shattered. At the same time, the powerful force passed through the light shield and shattered the gem. Luo Yao's body was sent flying. With such a delay, the 2 pseudo-heavens were sucked into the Universe Origin Cauldron. All of this happened too quickly, so fast that it exceeded everyone's expectations. Just as everyone was stunned by Luo Yao's identity, Zichen decisively took action, killing the 2 pseudo-celestials and sending Luo Yao flying. The Universe Origin Cauldron burned fiercely. The pseudo-heavens' miserable screams came from the cauldron and spread throughout the city, making everyone's hair stand. Everyone's hearts trembled. They looked at Zichen as if they were looking at a demon. That's the universe origin cauldron. He's Zichen. That's right, he's Zichen. He could kill supremes when he was in the spiritual realm and defeated pseudo-heavens when he was a supremacy. I didn't expect him to break through to the pseudo-heavens now. It's him. With the universe origin cauldron, Zichen can refine heavens. Those two pseudo-heavens are dead. Facing this huge pressure, someone finally guessed Zichen's identity and exclaimed. This cry of surprise was accompanied by a strong sense of shock. As the most famous person in the Jianwu continent, Luo Yao had naturally heard of Zichen's name. It was precisely because Zichen's achievements were too brilliant that he was forced to go into seclusion and break through to the pseudo-heavens in one fell swoop. He had just broken through and wanted to come out and relax. But who would have thought that he would run into Zichen when he finally saw a woman who could move his heart? When he was a supremacy, he fought against the Penephase family and destroyed their pseudo-heavens. Now that Zichen had entered the pseudo-heavens, his combat strength had obviously become stronger. Luo Yao's supremacy weapon, which was second only to a heavenly weapon, only had 9 precious energy gems on it. Zichen destroyed one with a single punch. Within the universe origin cauldron, the screams gradually disappeared. Zichen, who had entered the pseudo-heavens, could easily kill those of the same level with his destruction origin. However, in order to hide his identity as a heaven-defying, he chose to use the universe origin cauldron. With this cauldron, the two pseudo-heavens quickly fell silent. Zichen put away the universe origin cauldron and looked at Luo Yao, whose expression was constantly changing, and said calmly, "May I ask if I have a second choice?" Zichen's words and expression were calm, but when Luo Yao saw Zichen, he felt a chill in his heart and his body couldn't help but tremble. "You, don't go too far." Luo Yao's voice trembled. "I think you're the one who's going too far." Zichen looked at Luo Yao and smiled coldly. The number of pseudo-heavens Zichen had killed had already reached double digits, and there was an inexplicable pressure coming from his body that made Luo Yao extremely afraid. Facing Zichen alone, Luo Yao was a little scared and didn't know what to do. Under normal circumstances, the experts of his clan should have sensed the gems shattering and should have rushed over immediately, but they still hadn't come. In everyone's eyes, the insufferably arrogant Luo Yao was completely terrified in front of Zichen today. These two pseudo-heavens are the price. If there's a next time, you can forget about leaving. Zichen's voice was cold as he glanced at a certain spot in the crowd, then turned and left. The person guarding the teleportation array was a realm lord. When he saw Zichen coming over, his legs trembled in fear, and he hurriedly opened the teleportation array for Zichen. Only when Zichen's figure disappeared did the cultivators in the city breathe a sigh of relief. With Zichen here, the pressure was too great. Luo Yao's legs went soft, and he fell to the ground. He had always been strong, but this was based on his identity as a member of the Luo family. Zichen was someone who even dared to provoke the 5 elements aristocratic families, and the Luo family was at most equivalent to one of the 5 elements aristocratic families. Therefore, facing Zichen, Luo Yao truly felt the threat of death. If he dared to offend the 5 elements aristocratic families, he naturally dared to kill him. "Young master." A middle-aged man walked out of the crowd and came to Luo Yao. Seeing this person, Luo Yao regained his spirit and shouted, "Why are you only here now? He's already run. Hurry up and chase him." The middle-aged man said, "I've been here for a long time." Luo Yao jumped up and pointed at the middle-aged man's nose angrily. "Good Luo Tong, you've been here for a long time, but you didn't do anything. Do you want me to die that much?" "Young master, please calm down. If I had done anything, you would definitely have died." *T. Don't tell me that a heaven realm expert like you can't protect me. Luo Tong said, "Young master hasn't been in the family for a few days, so you don't know about Zichen. Just a few days ago, Zichen once again broke through the 5 elements aristocratic families must-kill situation. After entering the pseudo-heaven realm, he almost killed the heaven realm expert of the Jin family, but the latter was taken away by the heavenly soldiers. What? Luo Yao's eyes widened, filled with disbelief. He had 2 interests in life. One was beauty, the other was divine weapons. It was because he had studied these 2 things that he recognized the universal origin cauldron in Zichen's hand at a glance. Similarly, he knew what it meant for a heaven realm expert to be taken away by a heavenly soldier. This meant that even a heaven realm expert with a heavenly soldier couldn't do anything to Zichen. Chapter 1893. Looking at the unwilling Luo Yao, the middle-aged man said, "We have to report this to the patriarch first." Luo Yao immediately perked up when he heard that. He nodded excitedly and said, "That's right. Let's go find my father first. We must get Zichen's universal origin cauldron. Even if the war breaks out, we'll have a powerful weapon. Besides, that little beauty is beautiful and elegant. She's really attractive. Let's get her too." As an aristocratic family, they were more sensitive to changes in the world. They had long sensed that a war was about to break out in this world. Swoosh! The middle-aged man waved his sleeve, and a stream of combat origin energy wrapped around Luo Yao and disappeared. Zichen and the other 2 began to move forward. During this process, Wang Xian explained the history of the Luo family to Zichen. This was something she had specially crammed after returning to the sword sect. She had some understanding of those aristocratic families with long histories. As a local family, the Luo family was extremely good at refining weapons, including heavenly weapons. In terms of refining weapons, the Luo family can be said to be the best in the Zhanwu continent. It's said that in history, only one prodigy could surpass the Luo family, but that prodigy has disappeared. It's said that he died long ago. The Luo family is recognized as the #1 family in refining weapons. Wang Xian revealed some secrets. His robe is a top supreme weapon. It can attack and defend. Zichen thought of Luo Yao's robe. It was the first time he had seen that kind of robe. No wonder he didn't react to my previous attack. And I couldn't detect his realm, said Longhu. As a native power, the Luo clan has always had a sense of superiority. They feel that they are the orthodox rulers of the Zhanwu continent and possess the orthodox bloodline. This time, they have lost 2 pseudo-celestials. I'm afraid they won't let this matter rest, Wang Xianer added. It's okay. Even if they want to stop us, there won't be many heavenly masters. Zichen waved his hand. He didn't care very much. Pseudo-heavenly masters were extremely fast. If they wanted to escape, there were not many people in this world who could catch up with them. With the help of Heavenly State, Luo Yao quickly returned to the clan. He met his father, Luo Meng, and informed him of Zichen's appearance. It's that Zichen. Are you sure? Luo Meng's eyes flashed as he looked at Luo Tong. Rumor has it that Zichen possesses the universe origin cauldron. His energy attribute is lightning. He also has a supreme beast, Longhu, by his side. There should be no mistake about it, Luo Tong said. The Jin family just sent news. I didn't expect to find Zichen so soon. Our luck is not bad. Luo Meng smiled coldly. Of course. But father, if Luo Tong had made his move earlier, he might have been able to pin down Zichen. When the other reinforcements arrived, Zichen would have been captured. Luo Yao said unwillingly, Impudent! How many times have I told you to call me Uncle Luo Tong? Luo Meng reprimanded. Fortunately, your Uncle Luo Tong did not make a move. Otherwise, none of you would have been able to return. Is Zichen really that strong? Not only does he have the universe origin cauldron, but he also has a heavenly weapon. Do you think he's strong or not? Luo Yao's face turned pale. He asked unwillingly, Then what should we do? Are we just going to let it go? I have my own conclusions on this matter. Luo Tong, Send a message to the Jin clan. Tell them that Zichen has already arrived at the third continent. Next, we will take some people to follow him and have them surround the second continent's border. Yes. Father, are we going to surround Zichen? I'll go too, Luo Yao said excitedly. Luo Meng glared at Luo Yao. Are you going to die? I'm already at the pseudo-heaven realm. Do you think Zichen can kill me in front of a group of heaven realm experts? When Zichen was at the supremacy realm, even a pseudo-heaven realm cultivator wasn't his match. Now that he's at the pseudo-heaven realm, he can beat a normal heaven realm cultivator like a dog. You don't know how to cultivate all day and only know how to lust after worldly things. Hurry up and go into seclusion. Luo Meng left in a huff, leaving behind a helpless Luo Yao. Stepping onto the trans-province transportation formation, the three of them quickly arrived at the border of the third mainland. Next, they had to cross the mountain range and enter the second mainland. The second mainland was the territory of the 5 elements aristocratic families. According to their usual style, they would definitely arrange for spies or directly surround them. A month later, Zichen found that his world's origin energy was no longer growing. It was as if his world had reached a limit, or perhaps it had reached a bottleneck. Currently, Zichen was only 1 step away from the heaven realm, but he was stuck at this step. Do I have to go to the martial sky continent to break through? Zichen was bewildered. Logically speaking, he was walking his own path. As long as his world continued to grow, Zichen shouldn't encounter any bottlenecks. With his origin energy no longer growing, Zichen's realm had stopped advancing. If he wanted to increase his power, he would have to work on the lightning blade manipulation art. However, another month later, Zichen found that it was still because of his realm. Although he could use the lightning blade manipulation art, it was only at the entry level. Zichen's power had stopped growing. This was something that had never happened before. So, Zichen urgently wanted to return to the martial sky continent. Zichen decided to speed up. Longhu and Wang Xian entered Zichen's world. Zichen placed the 2 of them beside his world's origin energy. The 2 of them could first comprehend Zichen's world's origin energy before comprehending the world's origin energy. Zichen sped up and began to cross the mountain range. At this moment, Zichen didn't know that the Luo family's experts were tailing him, blocking his path. He also didn't know that behind the Luo family's experts were Tyrant's group of 4. This time, Zichen slapped the 5 elements aristocratic family in the face again. They definitely won't be able to sit still. They might even surround the second continent. We have to be careful when we go there, LV Peng said as they moved forward. That's right. Zichen's current opponents are either in the pseudo-heaven realm or the heaven realm. We can't deal with them, said Devil Ape. When the monk heard this, he said unhappily, it's all Zichen's fault for appearing too quickly. If I had waited a little longer, I would have broken through to the pseudo-heaven realm. Naturally, I wouldn't be afraid of anyone. Zhang Haotian was silent as always. Once we reach the second continent, we have to keep a low profile, reminded LV Peng. We have to keep a low profile, muttered Tyrant gloomily. At the border of the second continent, the members of the Jin family who had received the news had already sent experts to intercept Zichen. The 5 elements aristocratic families had always advanced and retreated together. This time was no exception. Not only did each family send several heaven realm experts, but after learning from Jin Chang that Zichen was difficult to deal with, they also invited a heavenly weapon. In addition, they also brought the owner of the heavenly weapon. In front of Jin Chang, there were 2 people standing side by side. One was a middle-aged man with a sharp aura, and the other was an old man with an old face. He wore the Jin family's signature golden robe and was resting with his eyes closed. The middle-aged man was a heavenly weapon, and the old man was its owner. Jin Chang, are you sure that Brat will appear soon? The old man opened his eyes and said coldly, It's news from the Luo family. I believe it won't be wrong. In front of the old man, Jin Chang seemed a little reserved. As long as I see that brat this time, I'll definitely tear him to pieces." The old man snorted and closed his eyes again. At this moment, there were 4 Heaven Realm experts and 10 pseudo-Heaven Realm experts standing beside the old man. These were only the experts sent by the Gene family. In addition, there were experts from the other 4 families scattered in other places. There was only one chance. Once missed, there would be no more. The old man, who had just closed his eyes, suddenly opened them again. He stared at the dense forest in front of him, his eyes flashing. Whoosh! Space distorted, energy surged, and the forest was destroyed. A golden silhouette appeared, carrying a terrifying energy aura. Then it turned into a stream of light and flew into the distance. "It's Zichen, that damned brat." Jean Chang's expression immediately turned cold. He recognized the silhouette as Zichen. "Go." The golden-robed old man pointed with one hand at Zichen. Beside him, the middle-aged man with a sharp aura transformed into a heavenly blade and shot at Zichen. Wherever the heavenly blade passed, a cut appeared in the void. Unfortunately, the 2 sides were too far apart. Add to that the fact that Zichen was deliberately running away. The heavenly blade could not catch up. "Stop!" The golden-robed old man growled as he stared at Zichen. Golden light flashed in his eyes. In front of Zichen, the void distorted and shattered. A huge black hole appeared, as if it was going to swallow Zichen. This was the Heaven Realm. When one looked at the sky would collapse. When one looked at the earth would crack. The heavenly might descended, and pressure enveloped Zichen's body, causing his speed to decrease greatly. The black hole was trying to swallow him. Buzz! Golden light flashed around him, and he forcibly expelled the heavenly might. His footwork was extremely fast, and a mysterious spatial fluctuation spread out. This fluctuation moved forward and enveloped the black hole. The entire black hole was completely still. Zichen turned into a thunderbolt and forced his way through. After Zichen passed through the black hole, his figure went far away. Only then did the sound of an energy explosion come from behind. The black hole spread out and swallowed everything. After dodging this attack, Zichen did not slow down. The attacks that came after Zichen chased after him and exploded in the sky. The energy fluctuations were accompanied by the shouts of the Gene family's experts. The other 4 clans heard the news and chased in the direction Zichen had fled in. As Zichen rushed forward, he encountered Heaven Realm and pseudo-Heaven Realm experts that appeared out of thin air. They suddenly appeared and launched fatal attacks at Zichen. Buzz! Under extreme speed, Zichen dodged left and right, no longer running in a straight line. Instead, he ran wherever there was a path. As if they had already expected Zichen to run, the 5 Elements family also took precautions and began to surround Zichen in this area. Zichen has already appeared. Let's go quickly. Luo Meng led a few Heaven Realm experts forward in the mountain range. Suddenly, he felt waves of heavenly might. His expression changed slightly, and he immediately rushed out of the mountain range. This time, the Luo family targeted Zichen because they wanted to get a share of the loot from Zichen. Let's go, quickly. Luo Meng and the others displayed their fastest speed. After rushing out of the mountain range, they saw the chase at the end of their line of sight. They did not hesitate to chase after it. Just as the Luo family disappeared, another 4 figures rushed out of the forest. It was Monk and the other 3. When they walked out of the mountain range, the heavenly might wreaked havoc. The 4 of them paled, and their faces were filled with shock. In the distance, brilliance kept flashing, and the void kept exploding. Among the saber lights and sword shadows, heavenly weapons appeared one after another. Facing the siege of so many Heaven Realm experts, Zichen, who was moving through the many energies, was like a small boat in a storm that could be capsized at any time. Zichen is in danger. Should we help? Demon Ape asked worriedly. Chapter 1894. The monk ran very decisively without any hesitation. The other 3 weren't as heartless as the monk. They stood there motionlessly and stared at the distant battlefield. "Idiot, are you trying to show that you guys are very loyal? Can't you see that that's just Zi Chen's clone?" The monk had already run far away. Clone! When the 3 of them heard this, they were clearly stunned. Then they no longer hesitated and immediately followed. "Clone, are you sure?" The demonic ape asked. "Of course I'm sure. But I can't even see it clearly from so far away." "How can you be so sure? Use your brain. If it's really Zichen, why didn't he use the heavenly thunder wings at such a critical moment? Moreover, Zichen clearly knows that this is the second continent, the base camp of the 5 elements aristocratic families. Why would he foolishly come here to die?" The monk rolled his eyes and sped up. The 3 of them nodded when they heard this. The monk's analysis was very reasonable. "It makes sense, it does make sense." A voice suddenly sounded. A pseudo-heaven appeared in front of the 4 of them. He was hiding in the dark, preparing to surround Zichen. Unexpectedly, Zichen didn't run in this direction, but he happened to hear the conversation of the 4 of them. If he wanted to deal with Zichen, he had to understand Zichen. This pseudo-heaven naturally knew the identities of the 4 of them. He stood in the void and released his aura. The space around him seemed to be unable to withstand his power and began to distort violently. In the eyes of a supreme being, the pseudo-heaven was like a ruler. When Zichen first met the pseudo-heaven, the latter could suppress him with just his aura. Later on, when they fought, the pseudo-heaven only used a finger, and Zichen was no match for him. Today, the monk and the other 3 met the pseudo-heaven. The other party also looked down on them and gently pointed at them. The void around the 4 of them began to distort under this finger. Then the distorted space materialized and turned into a cage, trapping the 4 of them inside. The pseudo-heaven looked at the 4 of them with a calm and indifferent expression. "Since you guys are here, I'll capture you guys. No matter where Zichen is, I'll use you guys to threaten him. Zichen will definitely return." With the difference between heaven and earth, the fake sky was full of confidence against the 4 monks. However, Tyrant and the other 3 were very unhappy. If you were in the heaven realm, it would be fine if you were so arrogant. However, you were a fake heaven realm cultivator, yet you acted so arrogantly in front of him. Exchanging glances, the 4 of them counterattacked. Buzz! All sorts of runes flashed on the black staff in the demonic ape's hand, and an aura that was second only to a celestial soldier's was released. At the same time, the demonic ape's body expanded as it gripped the black staff with both hands and smashed it down. Boom! A strong shockwave spread out, and the entire cage began to tremble. "It's just a fake sky cage, and you really think you're a heaven realm expert?" A cold light flashed in Zhang Haoyan's eyes. The stone sword in his hand transformed into a cold beam of light as it stabbed at the spot where the demonic ape had just attacked. A powerful force passed through the tip of the sword and surged into the cage, causing it to distort. "Break for Lord Zhang!" Tyrant shouted as the Buddhist light around him shone brightly. The demon subduing pestle was already in his hand as he attacked in the same direction. The attacks of the 3 people arrived one after another, landing on the same spot. The 3 forces instantly exploded. Bang! The cage created by the fake sky's finger was instantly shattered by this force. The fake sky, who was originally full of confidence, was now stunned. He never thought that the 4 of them could break the cage. Not only did the 4 of them break the cage, but they didn't escape. Instead, they rushed towards the stunned fake sky. Zhang Haotian, who was rushing forward, changed his figure and disappeared. Immediately after, his figure appeared behind the fake sky. Without a sound, the stone sword stabbed at the fake sky's back. Uft! The fake sky's powerful body was easily penetrated by the stone sword. Tyrant, who followed closely behind, forcefully rushed in front of the fake sky and sent the demon subduing pestle into his chest. All of this happened so fast that the fake sky couldn't react at all. Boom! The void trembled as demonic aura lingered around the demonic ape. Its crimson eyes emitted a cold light as it flashed in front of the fake sky. The black staff in its hand smashed heavily on the fake sky's head. A powerful force penetrated the fake sky's body, causing it to explode. The three of them attacked coldly, decisively, and cooperated well. Just as the fake sky's body exploded, the three of them began to escape. LV Peng, who followed closely behind, took out a few materials and threw them at the fake sky. Those materials surrounded the fake sky, forming a misty array that trapped the other party in it. At this moment, the fake sky probably still hadn't reacted. Moreover, he didn't believe that the four immortal sovereigns could break his imprisonment in an instant and catch him off guard in an instant. The four of them didn't hesitate to escape in the opposite direction. Their speed was raised to their limit. Zi Chen's clone probably wouldn't be able to hold on for long. As long as it was exposed, these heavenly realms would naturally react. At that time, everyone would become a target. As they moved forward, Tyrant, who was the first to run, looked back at the three of them. He felt that they were too big of a target, so he said, "Hurry up and go to my world. One person is too small of a target." In terms of scheming, Tyrant was even more scheming than Zichen. At such a distance, he couldn't see Zichen clearly at all. The reason why he was sure that Zichan was a clone was because of his scheming. He asked the three of them to nod and disappeared. Tyrant accelerated again. His fat body made him look like a meteor streaking across the sky. On another battlefield, Zichan explained to everyone what the ThunderClan's extreme speed was and what it was recognized as the world's fastest speed. He dodged left and right. In the face of the attacks of the heavenly realms, he could calmly face them and dodge them. When many attacks approached at the same time, spatial freeze could buy him time. Slash. A long sword cut through space, and the sword Qi swept toward Zichen. As long as such a strike touched Zichen, it would definitely split Zichen in two. Swish. Swish. Other attacks instantly approached from all directions. During this time, in addition to the 5 heavenly weapons, there were also attacks from other heavenly realms. They came from all directions and headed toward Zichen. In the midst of so many attacks, Zichen began to dodge. During this time, many attacks slowed down, allowing Zichen to calmly dodge them. If he couldn't dodge them, Zichen would take the initiative to find some weaker attacks. While he was dodging, all the heavenly realms had already arrived and surrounded Zichen. They all looked at Zichen coldly with sneers on their faces. In their eyes, Zichen was a turtle in a jar, and there was no way for him to escape. As Zichen dodged, his body was attacked again and again, and more wounds appeared on his body. Bang! In the end, Zichen's body couldn't withstand the attacks anymore and exploded. The surrounding heavenly realms couldn't help but laugh. In this way, Zichen couldn't escape at all. However, in the next moment, the smiles on their faces froze. They saw that the place where Zichen's body exploded had no flames of life burning. It was as if Zichen had just been killed by those attacks. However, Zichen was a pseudo-heaven. A pseudo-heaven's vitality was extremely strong. Without special means, no one could kill a pseudo-heaven. Just as the heavenly realms were puzzled, a voice came from afar. "That's a clone, not the real Zichen." The one who spoke was the pseudo-heaven from before. After his body was reassembled, he saw that the world was misty and he couldn't see anyone else. After forcefully breaking the formation, he didn't chase after the monk. Instead, he came here to report, "Damn brat! How dare you play with us?" The group of experts was furious and decided to split up to find Zichen. They spread out their spiritual senses and quickly locked onto Zichen's tracks. "Let's go after Zichen. Luo Meng, you go after the others." The experts of the 5 Elements family had already chased after the monk. Jin Chang's voice rang out. Even if they couldn't catch Zichen, they could still catch the monk and the others. When the time came, They could use them to threaten Zichen. Luo Meng was extremely uncomfortable with this arrangement. Everyone knew that the treasure was with Zichen. The escaping monk was very fast, but no matter how fast he couldn't be faster than a Heaven Realm expert. Luo Meng quickly led his men to catch up to the monk. Facing a mere supreme being, he could easily deal with him. Die. As Luo Meng's cold words fell, a heavenly might descended from the heavens. Under this heavenly might, the monk couldn't move at all. He instantly went from extreme speed to a static state. Pong! In the next moment, the monk's body exploded. But then, Luo Meng frowned, and a hint of anger appeared on his face. This was because another monk had appeared in another direction and was fleeing. Obviously, this was another clone, and a Heaven Realm expert was actually played by an undying supreme being. Luo Meng became more and more unhappy. The Heaven Realm experts of the Luo family who followed Luo Meng also had ugly expressions. Chase. His words were cold as he led his men to chase again. Because of the difference in realm, the monk couldn't run very far. Once again, Luo Meng caught up with him. Bang! The heavenly might appeared, and the monk's expression twisted in pain. His body exploded again, this time even more thoroughly. Then Luo Meng was furious. The Luo family was so angry that they wanted to roar. They saw another monk appear in another place and quickly flee again. Damn it, I'm going to tear you into pieces. Being played by a supreme being again and again, Luo Meng was furious and chased after him again. As they left, the monk who had just exploded was burning with flames, but his body reassembled. Obviously, this was the real body. After the real body appeared, he wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. That scared me to death. I was almost caught. These damn Heaven Realm experts. Can't they see that I'm just a supreme being? How dare they bully the weak? With that, the monk ran again in the opposite direction. When Luo Meng saw the monk's body explode and no longer reassemble, his gloomy face surged with crazy killing intent. Then he released his spiritual sense and saw the monk. He was furious. It turned out that the one just now was the real body. Let's go and kill him. Luo Meng was truly enraged. He was the head of the Luo family, and he had several heavenly realm experts with him. Yet he was being toyed around by a supreme being. Not only was he losing face, but he was also losing face for the Luo family. If a Heaven Realm expert wanted to catch a supreme being, the supreme being couldn't escape. The killing intent between heaven and earth surged crazily. Under this killing intent, the whole world seemed to be trembling. Chapter 1895. Sensing Luo Meng's killing intent, the monk chose to beg for mercy without hesitation. Die. But it was useless. Luo Meng was still angry. As the terrifying heavenly might descended, the monk's body exploded again. Humph! Looking at the monk's body exploding, Luo Meng snorted coldly. Because of the monk's words, the depression in his heart was swept away. As long as he captured the monk and threatened Zichen, it would not be a waste. But looking at the monk's body that did not reassemble, Luo Meng's eyes widened. His eyes began to spit fire, and his heart was filled with anger. Obviously, this was another clone. He was fooled again. After the clone was destroyed, Zichen's real body began to escape at full speed. In his perception, the group of Heaven Realm experts had already turned around and chased after him. This Five Elements family has really put in a lot of effort. They actually got 5 heaven-grade weapons. Under the condition of using extreme speed, these Heaven Realm experts could not catch up to Zichen in a short time. While moving forward, Zichen would occasionally use his clones. In any case, these people could not distinguish between the real body and the clones. Naturally, they could not enter the city and could only escape from the periphery. Zichen would occasionally use his clones to divert the Five Elements family's attention. With a speed that was not inferior to a Heaven Realm expert and a clone that could not be distinguished by a Heaven Realm expert, Zichen's chances of escaping were very high. The group of Heaven Realm experts with heaven-grade weapons, finally caught up with Zichen and surrounded Zichen. But all they saw was the disappearing clones. Ah! The monk roared angrily at the sky. His angry voice spread throughout the world. The 5 Elements family's Heaven Realm experts were about to go crazy. Now, the situation on both sides was almost the same. The 5 Elements family and the Luo family were being played around by the 2 of them. However, during this process, the only difference was that Zichen was getting farther and farther away from the Heaven Realm experts, while the monk was getting closer and closer to the Luo family. Finally, the 5 Elements family completely lost track of Zichen. They had to admit that Zichen had escaped. On the other side, after fooling around again and again, the monk was finally caught by the Luo family. Zichen, your friend, is in my hands. Come back if you don't want him to die. A cold voice resounded between heaven and earth. This voice traveled far, far enough that Zichen could hear it. Friends, Zichen was startled. He didn't know that Tyrant and the others were already here. It's evil good monk. He said that he's your life and death brother. If you don't come, your life and death brother will die. The voice sounded again. It's that damned Baldy. Why is he here? Zichen's expression changed. He had just escaped with great difficulty. Could it be that he had to go back? Zichen, it's me. It's really me. Come and save me. Otherwise, I'll die and you'll blame yourself for the rest of your life. The monk's voice rang out. His voice was sharp and somewhat hysterical. Blame my ass. I still want to kill you. Zichen was angry, but he was sure that it was Tyrant. He had no choice but to go back. In another place, Tyrant said to Luo Meng, how was it? Are you satisfied with this voice? Don't worry. Zichen will definitely come back after hearing it. In order to escape successfully, Zichen had spent a lot of energy. Previously, he had gone through many deductions and finally escaped with great difficulty. He didn't expect that such a thing would happen again. On the way back, Zichen secretly cursed that damned Baldy. Why didn't he die? The members of the 5 Elements aristocratic family had lost sight of Zichen and were all very dispirited. When they suddenly saw Zichen return dejectedly, they were all pleasantly surprised. Damn, he's really back. Is he an idiot? This Zichen is really loyal. That's right. These days, those who are loyal die quickly. Cut the crap. Hurry up and get him here. The heavens and pseudo-heavens of the Pentaphase family immediately charged at Zichen. They looked at Zichen as if they were looking at a monster. Zichen's return this time was obviously very slim. Zichen knew this very well, but he still chose to come back. This made others feel that he was a weirdo. During this time, Tyrant was afraid that Zichen wouldn't come, so he shouted a few more times. Zichen finally saw Tyrant. Haha, Zichen, long time no see. At this moment, Tyrant was hugging a Luo family member's shoulder. The 2 of them were as close as brothers. They didn't look miserable at all. Seeing Zichen from afar, Tyrant waved at Zichen. Your arms and legs are still here. Looking at your miserable appearance, I think you're half dead. Zichen walked towards Tyrant in annoyance. Tyrant also walked towards him. There was a huge light shield around the 2 of them. This light shield could seal the space and prevent the 2 of them from suddenly escaping into their own world. Tyrant hugged Zichen warmly, but got a disdainful look from Zichen. The 5 Elements family and Luo family members surrounded them. This time, it was really like catching a turtle in a jar. Tyrant pointed at Luo Meng and said, Come, let me introduce you. This is the head of the Luo family, Luo Meng. Zichen looked at Luo Meng. The latter looked at him with a cold expression. Are you close? Zichen looked at Tyrant. Of course not. They almost killed me just now. Tyrant glared at him. Then why didn't you die? Zichen asked again. From the tone of the 2 of them, it was as if they weren't friends, but enemies. Tyrant shrugged and said, They did want to kill me, but I promised them that as long as they don't kill me, I'll let you give them the universe origin cauldron. What? Zichun stared and grabbed Tyrant's collar. He questioned, "What right do you have to make decisions for me?" The universe origin cauldron was a true treasure. How could it be given away just like that? At the same time, the Five Elements family had a bigger reaction than Zichun. They sent so many experts. On one hand, they had a grudge against Zichun. On the other hand, the main reason was the universe origin cauldron. How could they watch Zichun give the universe origin cauldron to the Luo family? That cauldron is ours. The old man from the Jin family said coldly. Luo Meng's face turned cold. He thought to himself that this monk was indeed unreliable. He had just said it secretly to Zichun. Looking at Zichun, who looked like he wanted to eat him alive, Tyrant said fearlessly, "I say, Zichun, you can ignore my life, but the devil ape and the others are here. Don't tell me that the four of us can't be compared to your broken cauldron?" Broken cauldron? How dare you call it a broken cauldron? Even 10 pseudo-heavens wouldn't be able to exchange for such a cauldron. Zichun was so angry that he wanted to kick Tyrant to death. Tyrant still looked like he deserved a beating. He said, "Then do as you see fit. You've been captured anyway." Zichun wanted to kick Tyrant to death right now. "What do you mean by captured?" "I came back on my own accord because I heard your voice, you darn baldy." The two of them were bickering and wanted to fight. The two forces were also in a stalemate. In the end, Zichun couldn't stand Tyrant's shameless look. He said, "If you want the cauldron, make this darn baldy scram first. I feel annoyed just looking at him." "That's impossible." The two heavenly realms spoke at the same time, their words firm. The universe origin cauldron appeared in Zichun's hand. Its ancient aura immediately dissipated, attracting everyone's attention. "Let him go first." "I'll give you the cauldron," Zichun said again. "That's impossible." "Give us the cauldron first," Luo Meng said. "Give it to us first," the Jin family expert said coldly. "I say, why are you guys in such a hurry to snatch it? Can't you let me go first?" "As for the cauldron, you can snatch it later," Tyrant said unhappily. "Of course not." "Then don't snatch it. Zichun has more than one thing. How about this? One of you wants the cauldron, and the other wants the heavenly weapon," Tyrant suggested. Zichun turned back to look at Tyrant. He really wanted to punch him in the face. Not only did he not feel sorry for something that wasn't his, he even gave away the cauldron and a heavenly weapon. Under normal circumstances, a heavenly weapon would naturally be extremely valuable. But today, with the universe origin cauldron, no one wanted a heavenly weapon. Seeing that neither side was willing to back down, Tyrant said again, "Since you guys feel that it's unfair, then Zichun and the heavenly thunderwings will do. One side wants the cauldron, the other side wants the heavenly thunderwings and the heavenly weapon." Zichun looked at Tyrant and asked seriously, "You damn baldy, are we really on the same side? Do you know that you're cheating your own father and your teammates?" Tyrant said innocently, "Am I? I'm saving people." Zichun gritted his teeth and said, "You stupid donkey, why don't you take out the demon subduing pestle?" Tyrant said proudly, "That's a Buddhist treasure. They're not Buddhists, so of course they can't use it." Zichun had the urge to slap Tyrant to death. "My ThunderClan's treasure is also exclusive to them. It's better to lose one person than to lose both of them, right? Fine, but before I take out the treasure, I'll kill you, my stupid teammate." Zichun acted as if he was going to strangle Tyrant to death. Just like that, the two of them started fighting under the dumbfounded gazes of the crowd. "Enough! Don't pester us endlessly. Otherwise, both of you will die," the Jin family's old man said coldly. "Damn, Baldy, just you wait." With a cold snort, Zichun held the cauldron and said coldly, "Let this damn Baldy go first, or I'll kill this damn Baldy. I'll give the cauldron of creation to whoever kills him." The crowd of Heaven Realm experts looked at each other. Of course, they wouldn't be so stupid to think that such a good thing would happen. Although the two of them talked like they were enemies, Zi-Chun still wanted to let Tyrant go at this moment. This proved that the two of them had a special relationship. If they really killed Tyrant, then they could forget about getting the cauldron of creation. I'm the one who captured Tyrant. I want to let him go. Luo Meng was indeed the family head. He quickly considered the pros and cons fine. Tyrant didn't say anything else this time. In a flash, he escaped from the Luo family's side. Zi-Chin, give the cauldron to them. While escaping, Tyrant also shouted loudly, I'll give you the cauldron. The moment Zi-Chen's words fell, the cauldron grew bigger, burning with flames. It broke through the light shield and flew into the distance. The cauldron was burning, as if its potential had been stimulated. At this moment, everyone's eyes were only on the cauldron of creation. Stop them! The Jin family's old man shouted and rushed towards the cauldron of creation. As for the others, they were the Heaven Realm experts who were blocking the Luo family. Chapter 1896. Zi-Chin caught up to Tyrant in an instant. The two stopped bickering and hesitating and ran away as fast as they could. With a supreme treasure like the Universal Origin Cauldron, Zi-Chan believed that these Heavenly Realm experts would not have the time to bother with them and would only focus on snatching the Universal Origin Cauldron. The Universal Origin Cauldron was still moving forward, emitting rumbling noises along the way. Blazing flames spread out, distorting and shattering space. The group of Heavenly Realm experts chased after them. Due to Cauldron Spirit's deliberate control, the cauldron's speed was very fast, and the Heavenly Realm experts could not catch up immediately. The other pseudo-Heavenly Realm experts looked at the fleeing Zi-Chen and Tyrant, intending to intercept them. However, considering the difference in strength between the two sides, they had no choice but to give up. Space trembled and rippled as a huge 5-colored light barrier appeared out of thin air, blocking Zi-Chen and Tyrant's escape. 5 Heavenly Realm experts from the 5 Elements aristocratic family appeared along with the light barrier. They looked at Zi-Chin, who was inside the light shield, with a cold expression on their faces. Naturally, they would not give up on the Universal Origin Cauldron. However, they would not let Zi-Chin go either. To the 5 Elements aristocratic family, Zi-Chin was their archenemy. He was the enemy who posed the greatest threat to them after the great battle back then. Naturally, they would not let him go. Damn it. Zi-Chen's expression instantly turned cold. A cold light flashed in his eyes as Saber's spirit appeared and slashed forward. Piercing through the void, Saber's spirit arrived in front of the light barrier. With a crisp sound, the light barrier shattered. Let's go! Zi-Chun shouted and rushed forward. Seeing the light barrier break, a trace of surprise flashed across the 5 Heavenly Realm experts' eyes. However, they were not too surprised. One of them even sneered. It was no secret that Zi-Chin possessed a heavenly weapon. Light shone from the 5 Heavenly Realm experts as energy surged. The power of the 5 elements combined to form a new 5 elements light barrier. Unlike before, the 5 Heavenly Realm experts were now inside a light barrier. This light barrier was a 5 elements combination technique, one of the trump cards of the 5 elements aristocratic family. Bang! The knife spirit turned into a bolt of lightning and landed on the light shield again. There was an energy vibration, and then the knife spirit turned back. The 5 true Heaven Realm superhumans worked together and used a joint attack formation, and Zi-Chin was trapped. His expression turned extremely ugly. On the contrary, the monk beside him was not worried at all. Instead, he looked like he was watching a good show. Zi-Chin glared at the monk, thinking that he was indeed a pig teammate. Zi-Chin, surrender, a Heaven Realm expert of the Jin family, said coldly to Zi-Chin. The eyes of the other 4 turned cold. The remaining fake celestials also followed suit, surrounding Zi-Chin outside the light shield. This time, Zi-Chin had no chance of escaping. In the distance, the Heavenly Realm experts had caught up to the Universal Origin Cauldron. In the meantime, several Heavenly Realm experts had joined hands and forced the Luo family members to retreat. With the advantage in numbers, the elder from the Gene family with the heavenly weapon immediately came before the creation origin cauldron. As he stretched out his hand, the battle origin cauldron was like a river, enveloping the creation origin cauldron in layers. The flames burning on the surface of the creation origin cauldron were forcibly extinguished by the origin cauldron suppression. The cauldron was held in the elder's hand. "It's done." Looking at the simple cauldron, the elder's eyes were filled with unconcealable excitement. The universe origin cauldron was said to be able to refine even a saint to death. Now that he had obtained it, the Five Elements family would have another trump card. In the distance, Luo Meng's eyes flashed with anger. At the same time, he cursed that damn monk for being unreliable. At this moment, the signal that Zi Chen had been captured came from the other side. "Haha, everything is going well." The elder from the Gene family laughed loudly. Today was of great significance to the Five Elements family. Not only had they obtained a great treasure, but they had also eliminated a great enemy. Glancing at the people from the Luo family, his face became gloomy. Everything was going well today, but the Luo family's actions made him very unhappy. They had originally agreed to work together, but he did not expect the Luo family to want to steal the universe origin cauldron. The dissatisfied elder from the Gene family secretly thought that the Luo family would not be able to get a single thing from Zichen this time. Boom! Suddenly, something strange happened. The cauldron began to tremble, and an even more powerful force emerged. This force shattered the space and destroyed the origin cauldron of the elder from the Gene family. After leaving his hand, it turned into a ray of light and flew into the distance. This sudden change stunned everyone. The elder from the Gene family had a gloomy expression as he shouted, "Chase after it!" The group of Heaven Realm experts chased after it again, displaying their maximum speed. Luo Meng was also slightly startled, but then his eyes flashed. He thought to himself that there was a chance, so he led the others to chase after it. The direction where the cauldron was heading was precisely where Zi Chen was surrounded. After the Heaven Realm experts sent out the message, they were waiting for the group of experts to return and finish off Zi Chen once and for all. In the end, Zi Chen might even be refined to death by the cauldron. But in the next moment, a rumbling sound came from heaven and earth. Everyone subconsciously turned their heads and saw a burning volcano flying towards them. It's the universe origin cauldron. Why is it back? What a powerful aura! The universe origin cauldron had returned, emitting an extremely terrifying aura. It was like a flaming mountain moving at high speed. And behind the cauldron, a group of Heaven Realm experts was desperately chasing after it. Everyone thought that Zi-chan was messing around. Cold gazes immediately fell on Zi-chan. Then they saw the astonished expression on Zi-chen's face. In Zi-chen's perception, the cauldron was rapidly approaching, but he could not communicate with the cauldron's spirit. It was as if there was a mysterious force blocking their thoughts. Beside Zi-chin, Tyrant's face had a hint of joy, his eyes filled with anticipation. Boom! The charging cauldron slammed into the 5 elements light dome. Terrifying energy instantly erupted, shattering the 5 elements light dome and sending the 5 Heaven Realm experts flying. Zi-chin was shocked. Tyrant was also dumbfounded. The formation formed by the 5 Heaven Realm experts was actually so easily broken. After breaking through the light dome, the cauldron arrived beside Zi-chin. The terrifying energy was receding. At the same time, the cauldron shrank in size and finally fell into Zi-chen's hand. Senior, what's going on? Zi-chen reconnected with the cauldron's spirit. I don't know either. Just now, a powerful force completely suppressed my soul. The cauldron's spirit still had lingering fear. There was an inexplicable uneasiness in its voice. In a flash of brilliance, the Heaven Realm experts caught up and once again surrounded Zi-chin. At a glance, there were more than 20 Heaven Realm experts and dozens of pseudo-Heaven Realm experts. This was the first time such a large lineup had appeared since the war between the alien races. "Kid, let's see where you'll run this time." The Jean family elder stepped forward and said coldly as he stared at Zichen. "Run? Why should I run?" The one who spoke was Tyrant. He looked at the Jean family elder with contempt and said, "You old fart! How dare you surround your Lordzung here? Do you know who your Lordzung is?" The Jean family elder was furious. He was a Heaven Realm expert and held a very high position in the 5 Elements aristocratic family. Who would dare to call themselves Lord in front of him? The others also had cold faces, their killing intent locked onto Tyrant. To them, killing Tyrant was merely a matter of pointing a finger. Under this enormous pressure, Tyrant felt extremely stifled. Even speaking became very difficult. A pure Buddhist aura enveloped his entire body. The pressure of the Heaven Realm expert weakened significantly. Tyrant immediately said, "You old farts, don't even think about leaving today. Kill him." The Jean family elder was truly enraged and directly ordered. One of the Heaven Realm experts stepped forward, intending to kill Tyrant. Zichen, who was at the side, was indifferent. He had no intention of interfering at all. Tyrant's expression was purely courting death. If he was a member of the 5 Elements aristocratic family, he would definitely kill him. Tyrant would not normally court death like this because he was most afraid of death. The void trembled, and a huge pressure appeared out of thin air. Under this pressure, everyone felt as if there was a huge rock pressing down on their hearts and a mountain above their heads. At this moment, everyone, including Zichen, felt this oppressive aura. Under this oppressive aura, no one could move, including the Heaven Realm experts. Their bodies were forcefully controlled. The Heaven Realm experts' expressions changed drastically. They tried to summon the combat martial origin. One had to know that the combat martial origin was everything. It was the foundation of the Heaven Realm. But at this moment, they could not sense any combat martial origin. This kind of two-sided connection was blocked by a mysterious force. And in this world, who could stop a Heaven Realm expert? The Heaven Realm experts regained their senses. Their expressions changed drastically again. The Jean family elder said with a shocked expression, "Saint." "What, Saint?" Hearing the Jean family elder's voice, Zichen's expression also changed. He was also quite shocked. At the same time, he was also thinking quickly. Was the Saint's aura an enemy or not? There was one thing he was sure of. It was not the aura of the Thunder sacred beast. Facing the Saint's aura, everyone's expression changed drastically. The monk beside Zichen, who was originally calm, was also shocked at this moment. So many old things joining forces to deal with a child. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at if this gets out? A cold voice sounded between heaven and earth. A few figures appeared at the end of their line of sight. The leader was a woman. She was tall and wore a feather robe made completely of feathers. The feather robe was burning with flames. The woman was like a spirit in the flames. She walked slowly towards them. Behind the woman were 2 other women. One of them was a beautiful woman in a fluttering white robe. Behind her was a majestic flying divine tiger. The other woman was emitting the light of the silver moon. On her shoulder stood a white spiritual mouse. Zichen did not recognize the woman who looked like a flame spirit in front of him, but he recognized the 2 women behind her. He was immediately surprised. One was Shangguan and the other was Su Mengyao, who had followed Shangguan Yu to the Moon Clan. Zichen did not expect to meet them here. Moreover, they had brought a saint. Zichen's expression changed. The Heaven Realm experts saw it and knew that something was wrong. "We are the 5 Elements aristocratic family. This is my private matter. May I ask Lord Saint?" Chapter 1897. The old man from the Jean family was sent flying. The other Heaven Realm experts were shocked. As for the fake Heaven Realm experts, They were so scared that they couldn't say a word. If heaven realm experts were said to be the strongest in the world, then saints were the outliers in the world. The number of such existences was very limited in the entire Zhanwu continent, and every saint was a famous existence. In the entire Zhanwu continent, there were saints who had fallen, but no saints had ever advanced. It could be said that the heaven realm was the end of all cultivators. At this point, a cultivator could be considered to have reached the end. As for advancing to saint, only some extremely special and ancient existences could do so, such as the Thunder Saint Beast and the 4 saints of the Tianwu continent. These were all very ancient figures. In the current world, even with the arrival of the Great Era, very few people could advance to saint. What? You want to use the 5 elements family to suppress me? Unless your 5 elements patriarch is reborn. The woman in a flame raincoat slowly walked over. I don't dare. The old man from the Jean family didn't even dare to raise his head. The 5 elements family naturally had saints, but that was a matter of many years ago. Just like the real ancestor of the Thunder Clan, he had disappeared for many years. No one knew whether he was still alive. Greetings, saint. As the woman approached, the pressure of a saint disappeared. The Heaven Realm experts and fake Heaven Realm experts bowed in fear and trepidation. Zi Chen and Tyrant also hurriedly bowed. This was the first time they had seen a real saint, but they didn't expect it to be a woman. Su Mengyao and Shangguan Yu came from behind the saint. Su Mengyao asked curiously, Zi Chen, you don't know Sister Rose Finch? Sister Rose Finch? Zi Chen was stunned. Tyrant was also stunned. They didn't know when they had interacted with a saint. The only Thunder Saint Beast was still not a saint. The woman in the feathered dress walked past the Heaven Realm experts, ignoring them. Standing in front of Zi Chen, she said softly, back then they were still in the human realm. They haven't seen my true body, so it's normal that they don't know me. Zi Chen was stunned. Human realm? Wasn't that in the Tianwu continent, in the Sky Martial continent, when had he ever interacted with a saint? Suddenly, a thought flashed through Zi Chen's mind, and he exclaimed, Sir, you're the saint from the holy burial ground. The feather-clad woman nodded. The first time Zi Chen met the Undying Sovereign was in the sacred burial ground. At that time, Zi Chen knew that the Undying Sovereign would also die. The faces of the cultivators from the 5 elements aristocratic family were all deathly pale. The saints did not open their mouths. At this moment, they had to maintain their bowing posture, not daring to move an inch. When they heard the conversation between the two, they naturally knew that they had met an old friend. Among them, the expression of the Jean elder changed the most because Zi Chen mentioned the Saint Burial Ground. As a former member of the Sky Martial continent, he was very clear on what the Saint Burial Grounds represented. There were a total of 4 places, representing the 4 saints and the 4 saint beasts. Back then, the 4 saint beasts had been the rulers of the entire Martial Heaven continent. When the foreign races invaded back then, if it weren't for the 4 saint beasts, the Martial Heaven continent might have ceased to exist. In that battle, the 4 saint beasts had fallen one after another, and the place where they died was called the Saint Burial Ground. After the battle, the human race had many things to do. Many experts had set their sights on the Saint Burial Ground, but none of the experts who had entered had come out. Now that Zi Chen had mentioned the Saint Burial Ground, it meant that the experts who had fallen in the past had reignited their vitality and risen once more. This was an extremely shocking piece of news, and the significance it represented was extremely great. Relatively speaking, the Heaven Realm experts of the Luo family, who had always been natives of the Zhanwu continent, did not understand the significance of the Saint Burial Ground. They only knew that a saint had come to help Zi Chen, apart from feeling pity in his heart. Luo Meng also felt a little pleased. This time, the 5 elements aristocratic family's attitude clearly did not want them to obtain anything. At the same time, with the appearance of a saint, the 5 elements aristocratic family would not be able to obtain anything. Just the two of you? Where are the others? Shangguan Er's body was enveloped in layers of moonlight power. She walked over to Ziqin gracefully. Xian Er and Long Hu are with me. With a flash of light, Wang Xian Er and Long Hu's sovereign appeared. Demon Ape and the others are with me. With a flash of light in front of the monk, Demon Ape and the others appeared immediately. When they appeared and saw so many Heaven Realm experts present, they were all dumbfounded. They did not understand why they were released before the crisis was resolved. However, as soon as Demon Ape appeared, its gaze fell on St. Rosefinch. "Little fellow, I didn't expect you to grow up too." St. Rosefinch looked at Demon Ape and chuckled softly. Demon Ape came from the Saint Burial Ground and was brought out by Ziqin when he first entered the Saint Burial Ground. Demon Ape did not know St. Rosefinch, and the others were also shocked. A mere woman dared to speak so casually in front of a group of Heaven Realm experts. Moreover, she did not show any hostility. After Shangguan Er's introduction, everyone was enlightened. They were shocked and stared at St. Rosefinch. Saint, she was actually a saint, a true saint. Moreover, the most precious thing was that they all came from the Tianwu continent. For a moment, everyone bowed in unison. The shock in their hearts did not dissipate for a long time. St. Rosefinch had appeared in this situation to protect Ziqin. Big Sister divined that you were in danger. It just so happened that Big Sister Rosefinch went to the Moon Clan, so we let Big Sister Rosefinch stay here and wait for you to appear. Shangguan said softly. However, the way she called Big Sister Rosefinch made Ziqin blush with shame. With a saint beside them, those Heaven Realm experts did not even dare to breathe loudly. Saint Rosefinch looked at Ziqin and the others with a gratified expression. "I didn't expect that people like you would appear in the Tianwu continent this time. You are all very good." Everyone enjoyed the praise of a saint. "Where are you going next?" Ziqin asked carefully. He naturally would not foolishly call St. Rosefinch Big Sister Saint. That was a form of address between women. If Ziqin heard it, he might get into trouble. St. Rosefinch didn't know what Ziqin was thinking. She indifferently said, "I'm going to the first continent. If you're going the same way, you can go together." "Many thanks, Saint." Ziqin immediately expressed his gratitude. Clearly, this saint knew that his last stop was the first continent. That was why she was helping them. The Heaven Realm experts of the 5 elements families were ashen. "Let's go." St. Rosefinch turned and walked away. Ziqin and the others immediately followed. Su Mengyao and Shangguan are once more surrounded St. Rosefinch. It was unknown what they were talking about. After walking a few hundred meters, St. Rosefinch suddenly turned around. Looking at the Heaven Realm experts who were still standing there, she raised her eyebrows in dissatisfaction. "What are you all still standing there for?" The Heaven Realm experts were startled at first, but they quickly reacted and followed behind her with a bitter smile. During this time, Luo Meng was the most depressed. Not only did they not get anything this time, their relationship with the 5 elements families seemed to have worsened. It was a complete loss. At this moment, Tyrant suddenly walked over. He first smiled smugly at the 5 elements aristocratic families, Heaven Realm cultivators. He had the expression of a villain who had achieved success. Then he walked over and wrapped his arms around Luo Meng's neck. The two looked like good brothers. Luo Meng glanced at Tyrant with a disgusted expression. He wanted to kick Tyrant away because Tyrant was only an undying sovereign. He didn't deserve to stand side by side with him. Furthermore, Tyrant had tricked him earlier. But the next moment, Tyrant said, "Do you see that? The saint of our Tianwu continent is a true saint. We've seen him many years ago." Tyrant's deliberate words made Luo Meng even more disgusted. However, he didn't dare to take the next step even though he really wanted to kick Tyrant to death. Tyrant didn't have this awareness. He said again, "As the head of the Luo family, why are you crying here?" This is a grudge between us and the five elements families. You came here with the intention of snatching the treasure. Not only did you offend us, you also offended the five elements families. Luo Meng's expression changed slightly. He wanted to speak. Tyrant waved his hand. No need to explain. You and I both understand. Speaking of which, if it wasn't for the change in the situation, I would have definitely asked Ziqin to give you the pill cauldron. The Heaven Realm experts of the five elements families didn't dare to do anything to Ziqin's group. After hearing Tyrant's words, they all turned around and looked at the Luo family members with deep meaning in their eyes. Humph! This was clearly slander and deliberately sowing discord. Luo Meng snorted unhappily. You have to be careful. A saint is right in front. What if he casually shakes his hand and explodes you? Tyrant still had his arm around Luo Meng's neck. If the body exploded, it would naturally regenerate. Even a saint wouldn't be able to kill a Heaven Realm expert in a short time. Tyrant seemed to have guessed Luo Meng's thoughts. He said, once your body explodes, Ziqin will definitely take out the pill cauldron. What do you think we should do then? Luo Meng's face immediately turned pale. Once he entered the pill cauldron, there was no way he could come out alive. Behind them, Tyrant was threatening Luo Meng in all sorts of ways. In front of them, the Heaven Realm experts of the five elements families were also walking on tenterhooks. The appearance of a saint was too significant. If things went wrong, the five elements families might have to pay a huge price. At the same time, they felt indignant. Why was it that every time Ziqin was about to die, there would always be a change in the situation? With a saint accompanying them, there wouldn't be any accidents this time. Ziqin clearly relaxed. Next, he would head directly to the Wuji sect and borrow the Wuji sect's path to return to the Tianwu continent. There, he would break through to the Heaven Realm. Wang Xian also quickly got along well with Saint Rosefinch. Both of them were chatting softly. Occasionally, there would be bell-like laughter. This scene looked very much like an outing. However, who would bring dozens of Heaven Realm experts and dozens of pseudo-Heaven Realm experts along. Chapter 1898. What entered everyone's eyes were 5 cities floating in the air. Above the city, multicolored clouds swirled around. The light on the clouds fluctuated, making it look magnificent. This is the base camp of the 5 elements aristocratic families. Looking at the cities that were perfectly separated from each other, Ziqin was also stunned. He, who had dealt with the 5 elements aristocratic families many times, knew very well that the light flowing in the 5 cities in the sky was the light of the 5 elements energy. The 5 cities were very far apart, but they were connected by a kind of 5 elements energy, as if they were cities held up by clouds. In the cities, there were cultivators flying in and out like colorful rainbows, using the 5 elements formation to connect the 5 cities. What a big deal! L.V. Peng could not help but exclaim when he saw the 5 floating cities. With his eyesight, he could naturally see that the 5 cities were connected by a perfect 5 elements formation. Not a single one of the 5 elements energy could be missing. The formation could attack and defend, causing the 5 cities to be like a war fortress. Moreover, at the center of the 5 cities, there was a central place that converted the 5 elements energy. It was considered a small city. St. Rosefinch walked in front, still talking and laughing. The heavenly realms of the 5 elements aristocratic families followed behind, their expressions constantly changing. At this moment, they could not figure out why the saint had come here. The cultivators who flew out of the city were heading in this direction. When they suddenly saw the people below, their expressions changed, and they immediately retreated far away. There were too many heavenly realms below, and there was even a saint. Even if they suppressed their auras, it still made people feel oppressed. The 5 elements forces in the city were waiting for good news. Who knew that the good news would not come, but a saint would come. Experts flew out of the city one after another. But when they heard this shocking news, they were all scared back at the fastest speed possible. Are they trying to intimidate the five elements aristocratic families? I like it. Monk still had his arm around Luo Meng's neck. When he saw the experts who appeared and left quickly, he had a smug smile on his face. Luo Meng glanced at Monk and did not say anything, but he was sneering in his heart. Saints were indeed powerful, but if they were arrogant enough to think that they could intimidate the entire five elements aristocratic families with their strength alone, they would be gravely mistaken. According to legend, the five-element Grand Formation had trapped a saint in the past, and the slightest mistake might cause these people to perish here. At that time, Luo Meng glanced at the monk again. He was thinking of all kinds of torture methods in his heart. He must torture this fool who dared to call himself a brother to death. Saint Rose Finch didn't seem to notice at all. While talking and laughing, they went straight to the center of the five cities. There was a very small city there, which was the core of the five elements' great array. A saint has actually come. When the news spread back to Five Element City, the patriarchs couldn't hide their shock when they heard it. A saint appeared out of nowhere, and this saint wants to protect Ziqin. Damn it. The head of the Mu family was furious. So what if he's a saint? If he's forced into a corner, we can activate the five elements' great formation. Another family head said coldly. This matter needs to be considered at length. Don't be rash. Ziqin has come this time. He has the universe origin cauldron. As long as we take it away and use the five elements' great formation, even a saint might be able to be refined to death. The four family heads kept discussing, but the head of the Jean family was silent. After a moment, he waved his hand and said, "Don't be impatient. There are only so many saints in this world. Since the other party dares to come here, he must be very confident. Come with me and meet this saint first." That's right. There's no saint in the Jianwu continent that we don't know. I want to see which saint dares to deliberately provoke us here. The five patriarchs left the room and walked outside. Soon, they arrived in front of St. Rose Finch and hurriedly bowed. This scene was naturally seen by the cultivators in the five cities. Heavenly realm cultivators, who were rarely seen on normal days, appeared in groups today. The five high and mighty patriarchs even personally bowed to a woman, which made the others very curious. I didn't know that a saint had come. Sorry for not coming out to meet you. While the five patriarchs bowed, they also sized up St. Rose Finch, but this was an unfamiliar face. There were many ancient books in the five elements aristocratic families, and the ancient books recorded the appearance of many saints, but they had never seen this one in front of them. Could it be a new saint in the era of prosperity? The five patriarchs secretly guessed in their hearts. The scene outside the city attracted the attention of many cultivators. More cultivators rushed out, and after seeing such a big lineup, their expressions changed. Ziqin, it's Ziqin. Yes, it's him. I saw him in the Misty Palace. He's the one who killed the Supremes in an instant and drove away the two pseudo-heavenly realm cultivators. Your news is outdated. It said that Ziqin can now fight against heavenly realm cultivators and kill pseudo-heavenly realm cultivators. Someone in the crowd recognized Ziqin, and startled cries rang out. There were too many rumors about Ziqin, from fighting Supremes at the beginning, to killing pseudo-Supremes, to fighting against Empyreans. There are too many. In the past few years, the most famous person on the Jianwu continent had to be Ziqin. Now that Ziqin's name had spread, startled cries rang out. Everyone was looking at Ziqin in front of the Heaven Realm cultivators. Ziqin. He's the Ziqin of the Martial Heaven continent. Back then, he was a legend on the Martial Heaven continent. I didn't expect him to still be so glorious in the Jianwu continent. After so many years, I always thought that the legends about Ziqin were fabricated. I didn't expect him to really exist. It had been many years since Ziqin had left the Martial Heaven continent. During this time, many cultivators from the five elements families had come here. They were familiar with Ziqin's deeds, but this was their first time seeing Ziqin in person. Their expressions were complicated. The 5 family heads also looked at Zichin. It was this person who had caused the 5 elements to suffer again and again. It was also him who had the universal origin cauldron. This was a true treasure for the entire Zhanwu continent. For a moment, the 5 family heads' emotions fluctuated. A saint was powerful and terrifying, but if a saint was placed together with the universal origin cauldron, there was still some consideration. Family head, you mustn't. As if guessing the family head's thoughts, the elder of the Jin family immediately transmitted to him. Why not? His origin is very great. He can block the 5 elements' grand formation, said the family head without batting an eyelid. I don't know if he can block the 5 elements' grand formation, but his origin is definitely great. Who is he? He is Rose Finch, one of the 4 sacred beasts of the martial heaven continent. Rose Finch. What? The family head's expression changed instantly. His emotions fluctuated, attracting the attention of the others. Saint Rose Finch glanced at the family head with a hint of ridicule in his eyes, but he didn't say anything and walked straight into the city. Big brother, what's going on? Why is his mood fluctuating so much? Asked the family head of the Hua family. He is a saint, one of the 4 sacred beasts, Saint Rose Finch. The family head of the Jin family felt like a huge wave had been set off in his heart. What? He is Rose Finch of the 4 sacred beasts. How is this possible? Didn't the 4 sacred beasts fall? The other 4 were also shocked. How can a saint fall so easily? Rumor has it that a saint can be resurrected. It seems that the rumor is true. Saint Rose Finch has been resurrected. What about the other 3 saints? If they are all alive, does that mean that chaos is really coming? As they walked forward, the 5 family heads' attitudes became even more respectful. If saints were divided into 3, 6, and 9 classes, then the 4 sacred beasts represented the highest class. They were completely comparable to the starry sky great saint who had brought a huge disaster to the Zhanwu continent. Just like the experts of the Zhanwu continent had to be grateful to the expert who had fallen with the starry sky great saint, all the living beings of the martial heaven continent had to be grateful to the 4 sacred beasts. They didn't know whether Saint Rose Finch had the strength to break the 5 elements formation, but they knew very well that they didn't have the guts to open the 5 elements formation in front of Saint Rose Finch. May I ask why Lord Saint has come this time? Asked the expert of the Jin family carefully as they walked forward. His attitude was extremely respectful. We want to go to the 1st continent. We find it too slow to walk. So we want to borrow a transportation formation, said Saint Rose Finch indifferently. The 5 family heads' expressions changed, while the rest of the heavenly realm experts were confused. They didn't remember there being a transportation formation to the 1st continent here. What, is there a problem? Saint Rose Finch looked at the family head of the Jin family. No. Being stared at by the saint, the family head of the Jin family felt a lot of pressure. He didn't have time to ask how the saint knew such a secret. Other than that, there's something I want to tell you. Please speak, Lord Saint. Saint Rose Finch looked back at Zichin and said, he's called Zichin. You should know him. He's the future of the martial heaven continent. When disaster comes, we still need him to resist it. We all value him very much. The few of them nodded repeatedly. The we that Saint Rose Finch spoke of clearly included the other 4 sacred beasts. From this point, it could be seen that the 4 sacred beasts had indeed been resurrected. Moreover, great chaos was coming. Saint Rose Finch suddenly changed the topic and said, I heard that there's some enmity between you all. The family heads were startled at first, but then the family head of the Jin family immediately said, No, there's just some misunderstanding between us and little brother Zichin. It's just a misunderstanding. In order to prove that his words were trustworthy, the head of the Jin family immediately turned around to look at Zichin. With a kind smile on his face, he said, Little brother Zichin, everything that happened before was just a misunderstanding. I hope you don't mind it. Since you said it was a misunderstanding, then of course I won't mind. Zichen smiled and said, in fact, the enmity between the two sides was almost irreconcilable, but in front of the saint, the two had no choice but to reconcile. Moreover, Zichen also knew that Saint Rose Finch could only protect him for a while, but not forever. If he wanted the 5 elements aristocratic families to take out a true attitude of apology, he had to become stronger. The enmity between the two sides was resolved here. Of course, Zichen had acted out this kind of drama many times when he was in the martial heaven continent. Next, everyone arrived at the 5-element city. This was the core city of the 5 elements aristocratic families, and the entire formation was controlled here. Chapter 1899. The first continent was currently the most mysterious place on the martial war continent. There were many ancient families gathered here, and experts were as common as clouds. Coupled with the Golden Age, almost all the cultivators who had been stuck at bottlenecks for many years had broken through. Pseudo-sky and heaven realms, which were rarely seen, could be seen everywhere. Stepping into this region, Zichen felt his mind relax. He could immerse himself in heaven and earth at any time, comprehending the origin of heaven and earth. Where are you going next? Asked St. Rose Finch after arriving at the first continent. Along the way, St. Rose Finch didn't put on any airs of a saint. Instead, she was like a big sister. We'll go to the everlasting sect first, then return to the martial heaven continent, said Zichen honestly. St. Rose Finch glanced at everyone. You really should go back. Only there can you break through at the fastest speed. Saint, you're leaving? Asked Zichen. My power hasn't reached its peak yet. Before the battle starts, I'll try to return to my peak state, said St. Rose Finch. Everyone was in the air above a mountain range. The forest below covered the sky, and the mountain range rose and fell. The vermilion bird saint gave a few more instructions to Su Mengyao and the others before turning around and leaving. Let's go to the everlasting sect. Following Lin Shui's instructions, Zichen first sensed his location and then led everyone through the mountain range. For 3 days, they didn't leave the mountain range. During this time, they didn't see anyone else. The first continent was far less prosperous than they had imagined. We're finally going back. Everyone was very happy. Even Zhang Haotian sighed from time to time. They had too many things to worry about in the martial heaven continent. After being out for so long, they could finally go back. Boom! Energy suddenly surged, and the trees exploded. The energy ripples shattered the mountain range and spread in all directions. At the end of their line of sight, 2 figures were fighting in the sky above the mountain range. Powerful energy fluctuations spread out. As expected of the first continent, the first battle I saw was actually a battle between pseudo-sky realms. Looking at the 2 figures in the distance, Tyrant couldn't help but sigh. He was only an undying sovereign, and he was eager to enter the pseudo-sky realm and then the heaven realm. In front of him, the battle between the silhouettes was extremely fast, constantly changing their positions. What a fast speed! It doesn't seem to be any slower than the Lightning Clan's extreme speed. The demonic ape spoke. Light flickered in its eyes. The 2 pseudo-divines fighting in front of him were indeed very fast. Even Zichen, who possessed extreme speed, was surprised to see this. Let's go. Don't cause trouble. Retracting his gaze, Zichen spoke, and the group took a detour. They fought their way here. Tyrant shouted. Waves of energy waves swept towards them, fluttering everyone's robes. The trees below began to fall, and large rocks rolled down from the mountains. The 2 of them were clearly engrossed in their fight. They didn't pay attention to their surroundings at all. They moved in this direction as they fought. The scene could be described as a sandstorm that covered the sky and covered the sun. The pressure of the pseudo-heaven fell on them, causing everyone's expression to change. Zichen raised his hand and shot out a light of energy, blocking the pressure. The 2 of them moved towards him, so Zichen chose to stop. Based on the principle of not causing trouble, he let them pass first. Zi-chan thought that he was being very modest, but he didn't know that in the midst of the violent energy, they who were inside the energy shield were very conspicuous. Moreover, in the face of this violent energy, the shield didn't move at all. It seemed to be resisting the two of them. As they approached, Zi-chan saw the faces of the two of them clearly. They were both very young, and each had outstanding talents. One of them was wearing purple gold armor. His attacks were like lightning, and the purple gold energy occupied half of the sky. The other was agile, and his eyes were filled with divine light. When he moved, there seemed to be the sound of a dragon's roar, and the shadow of a dragon flashed. The two of them swept across the sky and glanced at the light shield below. The young man in the purple gold armor had a flash in his eyes. He released his hand and punched downwards. The fist light carried a powerful aura as it went straight for the light shield below. This blow was very strong and it surprised Zi-chan. However, he didn't intend to counterattack. He just increased the defensive strength of the energy shield. Boom! The fist light exploded and the energy raged. The light shield began to tremble violently. Zi-chan put one hand on the light shield, and the golden energy and the violent energy continued to clash. The light shield kept distorting, neutralizing the power of the fist. In the end, the violent energy dissipated in the clash. These two idiots are simply courting death. The monk was very dissatisfied with this provocation for no reason. This dissatisfaction was actually dissatisfaction with his own realm. Seeing that everyone was a fake sky saint, and he was only an undying sovereign, the monk, who had always been strong, felt very uncomfortable, especially when he was standing next to Zi-chan. One had to know that no matter when, his realm was higher than Zi-chan's. When the two of them first met, he could completely defeat Zi-chan. The energy of the fist light completely dissipated, but the light shield still didn't shatter. The two of them left. After Zi-chan removed the light shield, he ordered, "Don't cause trouble. Let's go to the Wuji sect first." This was the first continent, and there were many experts. Perhaps there were saints like Rosefinch who had entered the world early. Keeping a low profile wasn't a bad idea. Yes, let's return to the Martial Heaven continent first. Once we're there, it'll be our world. The monk agreed. His realm was too low, and he didn't have the qualifications to be arrogant. Zi-chan shook his head. The Martial Heaven continent might not be as simple as you think. With our current realm, we might not be able to cover the sky with one hand. What do you mean? In the past, I didn't think much of it. But ever since I became a fake sky saint and began to sense the world's essence, I always felt that the Martial Heaven continent wasn't as simple as it seemed. The energy fluctuations that had disappeared suddenly reappeared. The two of them had returned. This time they didn't fight. The two of them arrived in the air above everyone. The youth with the charming eyes looked at Zi-chan's group and laughed. "Golden Peng, wasn't I right? Your fist was useless. They're unharmed." The youth in violet gold armor had a cold expression. His battle-intent sword. Zi-chan cursed inwardly. It was obvious that the two of them were not enemies but battle maniacs. "You're able to block one of my punches. Let's see how many more you can block." The youth looked at Zi-chan with an arrogant expression. Violet gold light surged around him as he punched once more. This was a violet gold fist of light. There seemed to be a strange beast hidden within that fist, and the roar of a beast rang out. A strong gust of wind swept through, causing the forest below to emit cracking sounds. Ancient trees were snapped one after another, and those mountain ranges were also slightly trembling, as if they could collapse at any moment. The energy contained within this fist was much stronger than before. Looking at this fist, Zi-chan took a step forward. Golden light surged around him as he punched forward. Golden light flashed as this fist tore through space. Boom! The two fists collided, causing the world to tremble. Berserk energy swept out. With Zi-chan as the center, a light shield appeared and blocked the berserk energy. However, the ancient trees and mountains below suffered an unexpected disaster. Large areas were turned into dust, forming a vacuum pit. Zi Chen protected his companion and stood motionless. However, the youth in violet gold armor took 2 steps back. The eyes of the youth beside him flickered. He smiled again and said, "Goldenrock, you're too weak." He didn't even move. "How about I do it?" The youth named Goldenrock in violet gold armor couldn't stand such provocation. His face darkened as he shouted, "No need. Let's do it again." As soon as he finished speaking, a violet golden rock appeared in front of him. The golden rock stared coldly at Zichin. After a sharp cry, it rushed towards Zichin. The void exploded instantly. The golden rock carried with it a destructive power. Zi-Chen stepped forward as if he was climbing stairs. Under the pressure of the golden rock, Zi-Chen easily took 5 steps forward and faced the golden rock. His expression gradually turned cold. He clenched his right fist and punched at the golden rock. Golden light flashed, making Zi-Chen look like a god of war in golden armor. This was a punch filled with anger. The sky trembled and collapsed. The fist moved forward and hit the golden rock's head. Boom! The fist exploded. The golden rock exploded. Destructive energy rippled in all directions. The berserk energy was very close to Zi-Chen, but he still didn't move. The expressions of the 2 youths changed. They became serious and serious. "I was just here to take a look. I didn't expect to meet a worthy opponent. Goldenrock, it seems that you need to be more serious." The youth named Goldenrock nodded and said, "Seriously, that's right. He's someone worth fighting. Remember my name. I'm Goldenrock, the future Goldenrock Saint." There seemed to be lightning swimming in the Goldenrock's eyes. The aura around him began to rise. He reached the peak of pseudo-heaven in an instant, only 1 step away from the heaven realm. With him as the center, the space in all directions began to distort. He was like the ruler of heaven and earth. His body shone with purple gold light as he stood in the distorted void. "I don't know how strong he is, but he looks good," the monk commented. He wondered if he looked better than the golden rock. Pseudo-heaven aura surged around Zi-Chen. He was also at the peak of pseudo-heaven. When he entered pseudo-heaven, he was at the peak of pseudo-heaven. Dazzling golden light occupied half of the sky. His aura was not weaker than the golden rocks. He could even vaguely suppress the golden rock. Whoosh! The golden rock's fighting spirit rose. There seemed to be flames burning in his eyes. A shrill cry resounded through heaven and earth. His figure flashed and disappeared. He turned into a ray of light and rushed towards Zi-Chen. He was so fast that it was as if he was teleporting. "He's so fast." Zi-Chen, who originally thought that the 2 were very fast, felt it personally. His pupils couldn't help but shrink. He directly used the 9 lightning flashes. The 2 figures changed. They were like 2 streams of light, chasing each other and playing with each other. Chapter 1900. The 8 skills of Heavenly Peng belonged to the extreme speed category. It was a powerful ability of the Dark Lightning Peng clan, and there were few things in the world that could compare to it. As the pride of the Heavenly Peng clan, the Golden Peng had long been famous. He did not expect to meet a fake Heavenly Peng today, and the 2 of them were evenly matched. Under the young man's astonished expression, the Golden Peng displayed the 8 skills of Heavenly Peng to the extreme. His figure changed 8 times in an instant, appearing in 8 places as if he had turned into 8 people. However, the other party also changed 8 times. Each time he was behind the Golden Peng, 1 step faster than the Golden Peng. This proved that his footwork was also extraordinary. After the 8 changes of the 8 skills of Heavenly Peng ended, the Heavenly Peng true body appeared in another place. His handsome face was full of surprise. Previously, he had been trying to catch up to the other party, but the other party was 1 step faster than him every time. Faintly, the other party suppressed his extreme speed. After his figure appeared, the Golden Peng's expression changed again when he did not see the other party. Swoosh! Zi-chan silently appeared behind the golden pung and stared at him coldly. The golden pung sensed something and immediately turned around to meet Zi-chen's cold gaze. His heart trembled. When he saw Zi-chen, he exclaimed in disbelief, "How can your speed be faster than mine?" The golden pang's handsome face was full of shock and disbelief. The eyes of the young man watching the battle flashed, and his expression became extremely shocked. 9 changes. He saw with his own eyes that Zi-chen's figure changed 9 times in a row, one more than the golden pung. He had reached the limit of extreme speed that could be flashed. For extreme speed movement techniques, 9 was the limit. It was known as the extreme of 9. Whether it was the 8 skills of Heavenly Pung or the 8 transformations of Heavenly Dragon, they were rare extreme speed movements in the world. Their extreme speed changes were 8. Similarly, whether it was the Golden Pang's 8 skills of Heavenly Pung or his own 8 transformations of Heavenly Dragon, they were also recognized by the world as the extreme speed. However, there was one situation where these 2 footwork techniques could not be called extreme speed, and that was the true extreme speed of the 9 transformations. As for the 9 transformations' extreme speed in the world, there was currently only one type and only one type, and that was the number 1 extreme speed in the world, the 9 flashes of thunder. The 9 deaths of thunderbolts was the divine ability of the Thunder Clan. It was extremely famous, but the Thunder Clan was destroyed in the great battle back then. The 9 deaths of thunderbolts was lost and no longer existed in this world. Who would have thought that a random pseudo-heaven would possess the long-lost 9 deaths lightning, and the complete version at that? This is the fastest speed in the world, the true fastest speed in the world. The shock in his heart could no longer be concealed, and the young man cried out involuntarily, "You know the 9 lightning deaths. Who are you?" The golden rock also guessed the reason. The disbelief on his face turned into shock. Only the people of the Thunder Clan knew the fastest speed in the world, but he had never seen such a person in the Thunder Clan. Zi-chen. Zi-chen said indifferently. His speed overshadowed that of the golden rock, but he did not go all out. This was the number 1 continent, and there were many aristocratic families with long histories. It was better to keep a low profile. Zi-chen, what a familiar name. I think I've heard it somewhere before. The handsome golden rock frowned slightly. He sized up Zi-chen, trying to recall where he had heard the name. The young man also found the name familiar. He was also trying to recall. Suddenly he realized something. He looked at Zi-chen and said, "You're that Zi-chen who's been talking about recently. Rebel Dragon, you know him." The golden rock looked back at the young rebel dragon. He's that Zi-chen who challenged Supremes on the 7th mainland. 1,000 years later, he defeated Heaven Realm Supremes with the strength of the undying Supremes. The rebel dragon's eyes were still flashing with divine light. After hearing Zi-chen's name, he was not afraid at all. Instead, his battle intent rose around him. "I didn't expect you to come to the number 1 continent. Do you dare to fight with me?" "Oh, it's him." The golden rock's eyes flashed with lightning, and his battle intent rose as well. "It's you. No wonder you sound so familiar. I heard that you've been fighting people who are stronger than you. Today, I'd like to see it for myself." Feeling the two's fanatical battle intent, Zi-chen cursed them inwardly. Then he shook his head and said, "Sorry, I have something else to do. Let's fight another day." There's no such thing as another day in our eyes. Today, you have to fight even if you don't want to. Rebel Dragon, don't do anything. I'll do it. After the golden rock finished speaking, it bent forward. Purple and gold light surged, and it transformed into a purple and gold rock. On the surface of the rock's body, there were arcs of lightning. Its cold eyes glanced at the group of people and landed on Zi-chen. It made people's hearts tremble. "He looks good. Since he's so arrogant, let's catch him and make him our mount," the monk whispered. Tyrant muttered softly. He felt very uncomfortable. Usually, he would be the main character at this time. But today, he couldn't even be considered as a supporting character. At most, he was just a spectator. "Don't get your hopes up. You might not be his match if you're at the same level. The demon ape stared at the sky, ignoring the monk's feelings. You said, I'm not his match. The monk was dissatisfied and depressed. The demon ape did not respond. The others just looked at the sky. Although they chose to be silent, there was no nervousness or worry on their faces. Ziqin was invincible among people at the same level. It was not said casually. It had been proven through many years of battles. Even in the first mainland, they still had great confidence in Ziqin. Swoosh! In the sky, the purple-gold rock moved. As it moved forward, its wings tore the space apart. With a powerful aura, it flew toward Ziqin. The pseudo-sky aura shrouded the sky and the earth. Endless trees exploded and mountains turned into dust. Swoosh! Feeling the aura lock on him and the golden rock's pressure, Ziqin displayed the heavenly thunder wings and flew forward. It's the Thunder Clan's supreme treasure, the heavenly thunder wings. The inverse dragon, who originally had some expectations for the golden rock, shook his head in disappointment when he saw Ziqin use the heavenly thunder wings. In terms of speed, the golden rock was obviously not a match for Ziqin. The world's fastest speed could suppress all other worlds' fastest speed. Clang! 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 The heavenly rock seemed to have noticed this. As it rushed forward, its body shot out beams of energy. After these beams left its body, they turned into long spears. The long spears were bright and sharp. They pierced into the void, shattering it and turning it into a black hole. The heavenly rock flapped its wings, and the long spears in the sky trembled slightly. Then they turned into a rain of spears that tore through the space and rushed toward Ziqin. Wang. The golden light on Ziqin's body trembled. The origin source energy condensed in front of him, forming a huge origin source light ball. Within the origin source light ball, there was an unimaginably terrifying power. Ziqin looked up with a cold gaze, looking at the sky full of spears that tore through the space and approached him. His hands shook slightly. The origin source light ball floated forward. After it was about 100 feet away, the energy exploded. Boom! The origin source energy became very violent. Like a huge dragon, it instantly devoured the rain of spears. At the same time, it continued forward, enveloping the golden rock. Swoosh! Flapping its wings, the golden rock easily dodged the energy and rushed toward Ziqin directly. Ziqin stood where he was and looked up at the golden rock. He punched out. Dazzling golden light shrouded the sky. Bang! The energy collided. The heavenly rock's face paled slightly. A cold light flashed in Ziqin's eyes. The origin source energy around him surged forward crazily. With a louder sound, the golden rock's body flew backward. In the sky, a line of blood was drawn. It was the golden rock's blood. He was invincible among those of the same level. This sentence was not said casually, as expected of someone who can fight above his level. He is indeed powerful. Divine light surged in the rebel dragon's eyes as he exclaimed. He admitted that Ziqin was powerful, but it would be difficult for Ziqin to completely defeat the golden rock. Again, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, the heavenly rock yelled. He turned into a rock again and rushed forward. Humph! Ziqin didn't hold back anymore. With a cold snort, boundless golden light erupted from his body. The origin source energy formed a large golden wave behind him. He clenched his right hand and punched out again. The golden fist light tore through the space and arrived in front of the golden rock instantly. With a sharp cry, the rock's sharp claws collided with the fist light like sharp heavenly weapons. Boom! The energy was violent. The golden rock's expression suddenly changed. The violent fist light exploded along with its claws. The rock's blood splattered. Damn it! The golden rock cursed. It retreated, trying to heal its injuries. Since you want to fight, don't leave in a hurry. Ziqin's cold words suddenly sounded in its ears. Then the golden light energy enveloped the golden rock like a wave. In the golden light energy, the rock's shrill cry kept ringing. It was facing Zichen head-on. The golden rock was completely defeated. Powerful, powerful, powerful indeed. Such a battle force can be ranked in the top 5 even in the first continent. Who said that all the strong ones are in the first continent? This guy from another continent is not weak at all. Looking at the battle, Rebel Dragon kept praising. The divine light in his eyes grew brighter and brighter. The battle intent around him surged. These 2 idiots seem to be martial arts maniacs. Their companions are screaming, but they are still praising. Monk's attention was always different from others. Others were watching the battle, but he was watching Rebel Dragon. Seeing Rebel Dragon's expression, he couldn't help but ridicule him. The others heard him and turned around. They smiled when they saw Rebel Dragon's surprised expression. In the battle, the golden rock was almost torn into pieces by Zichen, but this guy was still enjoying the battle. Idiot, my realm is not enough. I can't use it. Hurry up and help me. The golden rock said helplessly. Its voice came from the battlefield. Oh! Rebel Dragon woke up instantly. He shook his body and turned into a huge black dragon. His terrifying aura swept in all directions. Monk was caught off guard and almost collapsed. The latter was so angry that he cursed. Rebel Dragon obviously wouldn't care about a small fish like Monk. After a loud dragon roar, he rushed toward Zichen. Zichen turned around and stared at Rebel Dragon. His cold eyes made Rebel Dragon feel a chill in his heart. In the next moment, Zichen formed a seal with his hands. The seal fell. Zichen looked at Rebel Dragon, who was rushing forward, and shouted, "Extreme Yang!" Chapter 1901. There weren't many cities in the first mainland because it was a place where clans and forces were the foundation. Its structure was also very different from that of the 9th mainland. It was mostly mountains and primeval forests. Many clans were built in the depths of the primeval forests in a semi-secluded state. Trample the Sky City was a very famous city in the first mainland. It wasn't far from the second mainland. Usually, many secluded clans and forces would come here to purchase some necessities. It was very lively here. The cultivators who entered the city were all extremely powerful. Boom! Suddenly, a huge energy tremor came from the sky. A pitch-black figure fell from the sky, streaking across the sky and heavily smashed into a building. The building collapsed with a loud bang. The sudden change stunned all the cultivators in the city. They looked at the collapsed building in a daze. The building had completely collapsed, creating a deep pit in the ground. There were still some residual energy shock waves that spread in all directions. Which reckless bastard did this? How dare he tear down my shop? Energy swirled, and the rubble was blasted away. The shopkeeper walked out of the rubble while cursing. The shopkeeper was a robust man with the strength of an undying sovereign. His brows were furrowed, and his face was filled with anger. His shop had been destroyed, so he was naturally unhappy. A few customers appeared at the same time. They all had ugly expressions. Compared to the shop owner, they had suffered an unexpected disaster. None of them were in a good mood. What's going on? Everyone gathered around and looked curiously at the center of the pit. There was a human figure there. Boom! The gravel in the pit exploded in an instant, shooting into the distance like a hidden weapon. A figure covered in dust appeared. It was a man with a face covered in dust. His face couldn't be seen. How dare you behave so atrociously in the Trample the Sky City? You're a pseudo-heaven powerhouse. Seeing the culprit, the burly shop owner was furious. He was about to curse when he suddenly felt the terrifying aura surging around the other party. His expression changed drastically. The expressions of the other cultivators also changed. Who would have thought that the one who fell from the sky was a pseudo-heaven powerhouse? Moreover, this pseudo-celestial seemed somewhat familiar to them. This is... Someone said with uncertainty, "Rebel Dragon? How is that possible? That's a genius of the Heavenly Dragon clan," someone said. Seems like it really is the rebel dragon. Looking at the dusty figure, another person said, Rebel dragon, he's a fake sky. Who can take down the rebel dragon? That's right, it's the rebel dragon. I saw him fight the golden rock from afar. To be able to knock the rebel dragon down from the sky, could it be the golden rock? That's impossible. Their combat power is almost the same. Only those in the heaven realm could knock the rebel dragon down from the sky. The crowd retreated far away. After recognizing the rebel dragon, they began to discuss in low voices. Rebel dragon walked out and shook his head. His head was on the ground just now, so he was in a daze. He looked around and heard the discussions. Rebel dragon was angry and said, Get lost! All of you get lost! As soon as he finished speaking, a violent aura swept through the city. Everyone was shocked, immediately backing up. This time, they were completely sure of the rebel dragon's identity. Something like this had happened in the space trample city. Logically speaking, the experts guarding the city should have come out to stop it. For example, the rebel dragon had destroyed public property and should be compensated. However, from the beginning to the end, not a single person showed up. Those people had been ordered not to act rashly. Earlier, the higher-ups had sensed the rebel dragon's aura. Apart from the rebel dragon, they also sensed 2 other auras. At the moment, the 2 were fighting, and the rebel dragon had just been knocked down. What a powerful kid. He can fight 2 people at the same time. The rebel dragon and the golden rock are well-known figures in the first continent. This kid can suppress them. His combat power is almost the best in the first continent. That's the 9 flashes of thunder. When did the Thunder Clan have someone like that? Some old men were discussing with astonishment. This battle was related to 2 geniuses. Naturally, they didn't want to get involved, nor could they. In another part of the city, there were 2 women. One of them was wearing green clothes. She was tall and slender with a delicate face. Her eyes were pure and bright, like a lotus that had just emerged from the water. The other one was also extraordinarily beautiful, with arched eyebrows. The 2 of them were holding hands and strolling in the city. Suddenly, a loud noise attracted their attention. A moment later, the rebel dragon appeared. Pseudo-heaven aura swept across the land. It's the rebel dragon. Who can knock the rebel dragon down? The extraordinarily beautiful woman covered her red lips. Clearly, she was very surprised. The rebel dragon. He's the rebel dragon. The woman in green looked into the distance. Her delicate face showed surprise. The rebel dragon was very famous in the first continent. He could be said to be a genius. Almost everyone knew him. It's rare even in the heaven realm to beat the rebel dragon like that. He must be one of the best in the heaven realm. The extraordinarily beautiful woman looked at the rebel dragon, who rose into the air again and said with certainty, Really? The woman in green looked up at the sky curiously. Suddenly, another loud noise came from the sky. A black dot appeared in the sky. Then the dot expanded and turned into a figure. The black figure was very fast. As it fell, it shouted, Catch me! Boom! Before the rebel dragon could catch it, the black figure smashed down and hit the rebel dragon. The deep pit deepened again. Smoke and dust rose everywhere. Energy vibrated. In the distance, everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. In their eyes, the powerful inverse dragon was actually knocked over by someone. Normally, the rebel dragon was extremely powerful and famous. After seeing this scene today, no one could believe that this was true. 2 figures rushed out of the deep pit one after another. They stood in the air and looked at the sky with dust on their faces. The one next to the rebel dragon was the Golden Rock. He was also a famous person. Soon, people recognized him. For a moment, all kinds of exclamations of disbelief were heard. The Golden Rock was the genius of the Dark Lightning Rock Clan. The rebel dragon was the genius of the Heavenly Dragon Clan. But now, the 2 of them were knocked down at the same time. While everyone was shocked by the other's combat strength, they also wondered who the other party was. They wondered which force dared to attack the 2 geniuses. People guessed that there must be more than one heaven realm expert. How can this be? The extraordinarily beautiful woman standing beside the green-robed woman frowned slightly. She appeared to be very shocked. Even a heaven realm expert can't fight against two people alone. It must be some faction that wants to attack them. She was only an undying sovereign. Normally, she admired those geniuses. Seeing the two of them in such a sorry state, she couldn't accept it at all. She lifted her head and stared at the sky. Seeing a figure descending from the sky, a smile appeared on the beautiful face of the girl in green. It was like a blooming green lotus, causing the surroundings to be filled with radiance. She looked up at the sky and said softly, "That might not be true." Under her slender neck, her breasts were slightly bulging. Her bright and clear eyes were full of surprise and joy. A handsome young man descended from the sky. He was wearing black. His robe fluttered in the wind. He was very handsome. He emitted the aura of a fake sky. It's him. Could it be that he defeated the two heavens chosen by himself? How is that possible? He's also a fake sky. Seeing that there was only one person in the sky, the crowd went into an uproar. They couldn't believe that such a fake sky descending from the sky was the one who had defeated the two geniuses. They guessed that it wasn't a heaven realm expert who could do that, but a force. What do you want? The two of them looked up at Zi-Chun with fear in their eyes. Zi-Chin, who was looking down at the two of them, had a faint smile on his face. He looked at the two of them and said, "I should be the one asking you this. Didn't the two of you want to fight? I have been cooperating with you. Now, what do you want?" The crowd went into an uproar again. It was really 1 against 2, and it was a battle of the same level. While being shocked, people looked at Zi-Chun carefully, guessing which tribe he was from. Unfortunately, he was a new face. No one knew him. The Golden Rock and the Rebel Dragon looked very upset. They were famous for their belligerence, but that didn't mean they were willing to be tortured. In the beginning, they were still able to fight against Zi-Chin. However, when Zi-Chin fully displayed his might, the two of them were defeated. After that, they were oppressed. They were oppressed all the way until they couldn't even run away. In fact, Zi-Chen's idea was simple. Didn't they like to fight? Then they would fight until they were sick of it. But we said we wouldn't fight. The Golden Rock wasn't afraid of Zi-Chin. He said coldly, "Don't think you're strong. I haven't reached the heaven realm yet, so I can't use many of my skills. When I reach the heaven realm, I'll come to you. Do you know how much you've delayed me? Today, whether you want to fight or not, you have to fight," said Lin Feng coldly. Zi-Chin said coldly. His fake sky aura soared into the sky. His figure was majestic and domineering. It was indeed 1 against 2. He had defeated the two geniuses. People around accepted the fact, but they still found it unbelievable. The place became extremely quiet. The two didn't say anything. Apparently, they didn't want to fight, but they didn't know the reason. At that moment, lights flashed. Many elders showed up. Their heaven realm aura swept over the place. Heaven realm! People exclaimed and stepped back immediately. They couldn't bear the aura of a heaven realm cultivator. Zi-Chun was still in the sky. He didn't say anything when he saw the heaven realm cultivators. As for the aura that the heaven realm cultivators deliberately showed, it was blocked by a mysterious power before it could reach Zi-Chin. Chapter 1902. They had clearly violated the rules of the city, but the heaven realm cultivators didn't punish them. Instead, they tried to persuade them, which made all the cultivators speechless. There had been people who fought in the city before, but they ended up in a miserable state, and it was the law enforcement team who dealt with the matter. The heaven realm cultivators who appeared this time were the strongest in the era of saints. But at this moment, they didn't say anything about breaking the rules. Instead, they acted as peacemakers. What made them even more speechless was that the Golden Rock and the Inverse Dragon, who were recognized as the strongest in their hearts, didn't refute, but chose to acquiesce. The Golden Rock seemed to feel the strange expressions of the crowd, and his face turned cold. Zi-Chin, let me tell you, I've never been afraid of you. It's just that I haven't entered the heaven realm yet, so I can't use many of the Rock Clan's supernatural powers. Once I enter the Heaven Realm, I'll definitely challenge you to a duel again." Looking at the Golden Rock, who spoke with conviction, and the inverse dragon, who was also unconvinced, Zichen sneered and said sarcastically, "Why wait until you enter the Heaven Realm? You can do it now." "You." The two were stunned, but they didn't say anything. If they could beat him, they would have done it long ago. Zichen, is he the Zichen who's been rumored recently? There's indeed a Zichen who's very famous recently. It's said that when he was a supreme, he comprehended the heavenly path technique and defeated a pseudo-heaven realm. Is it really him? But how long has it been since he entered the pseudo-heaven realm? Exclamations rose again. Zichen's name had been spread all over the Jianwu continent. Little friend, they're right. Their battle strength can only be fully exerted when they enter the Heaven Realm. How about we fight again at that time? Can you give us some face and let bygones be bygones?" A Heaven Realm elder said. "Zichen, he's Zichen. Lin Shui, he's your sweetheart." Next to the woman in cyan, the beautiful woman was very shocked. The woman in green nodded. Her eyes were filled with unconcealable excitement. Her jade-like hand gently pulled the hand of the woman beside her as she said, "Let's go." It's really him. He's able to fight 1 against 2. It seems like he's really as strong as the legends say. He's actually broken through to the pseudo-celestial realm. Several heaven realms had stepped forward to act as peacemakers. Zichen, of course, expressed that he would let it go. In fact, he didn't intend to pursue the matter. He just wanted to teach the two of them a lesson. Don't fight everyone you see. Not to mention that he saw Shuelin here. "Why are you here?" Seeing Shuelin walking towards him, Zichen left the crowd and flew toward Shuelin. "I'm here to purchase some things from Senior Sister." Shuelin chuckled and stared at Zichen with her clear eyes. Her undulating chest proved that she was not calm at the moment. "Are you going back this time? Where are the others?" "They're all here." Monk and the others appeared one after another. When they saw Shuelin, they were stunned at first. Then they cheered excitedly. Seeing Shuelin meant that they could return to the Wuji sect. Once they reached the Wuji sect, they could return to the Tianwu continent. Of course they were excited. "Zichen, once we reach the Heaven Realm, we'll go find you. If you haven't broken through by then, just wait to be beaten up by us." Leaving these words, Anai Long and Jean Peng turned into flowing light and flew away. The elders nodded at Zichen and then disappeared. "We're just here. You can go take a look around the city," said Zichen, looking at the girls who each had their own merits. "We've purchased everything." "I can show you around," said Shuelin. "No, let's go back to the Wuji sect first." Su Mengyao shook her head and said softly. She knew that Zichen had a rare treasure. She didn't want Zichen to be exposed. Wang Xian and Shang Guanyu also said that they couldn't wait to return to the Tianwu continent. They left the sky-trampling city. On the way back, Shuelin's senior sister stole glances at Zichen from time to time. She seemed very nervous. Nothing unexpected happened along the way. The group passed through a mountain range and finally entered a thick ancient tree. The ancient tree was just a camouflage. Inside the ancient tree was space-time. The space-time was very unstable, giving people a feeling of chaos. "This is a chaotic space-time. The Wuji sect is here," said Zichen, looking at the constantly changing scenery. Shuelin nodded and said, "Yes, the Wuji sect is in this chaotic space-time. In fact, it's not just the Wuji sect. The Anai Long and Jean Peng's clans are also in this space-time. Why is it in such a place?" Zichen was very puzzled. The first continent was very large, and the primeval forests were boundless. It couldn't be easier to establish a sacred land. "I'm not sure. It seems that every force in the first continent is like this." Passing through the chaotic space-time, they arrived at the Wuji sect. This sect that had disappeared for many years appeared in front of them again. "This is the Wuji sect. Looking at this place that couldn't even be considered a village, Zichen was dumbfounded. In front of them was a space less than a kilometer wide. There were 3 to 5 wooden houses in this space. As if sensing their arrival, 3 people walked out of the houses. There were 3 men, and they were all undying sovereigns. Looking at the dumbfounded Zichen, Xuelin smiled and said, "This is only the entrance of the Wuji sect. We haven't reached the real place yet." Junior sister Lin Shui, why did you bring so many outsiders? The 3 men's expressions changed slightly when they saw the group of people. The man in the lead directly spoke. His indifferent gaze fell on Zichen's group, and he appeared to be very vigilant. He is the person Lady Qingnu is looking for. He is not an outsider. Hearing the man's words, Lin Shui's expression became calm as she spoke. Are all the people Lady Qingnu is looking for? A trace of surprise flashed through the man's eyes as he asked. Only one person is. The others are my friends, Xuelin said truthfully. A trace of apology flashed through the man's eyes as he said, "Then I'm sorry. According to the rules, others can't enter." Senior Brother Wei Nua, do you know who they are? The woman beside Xuelin asked. I don't need to know who they are. I just need to abide by my duties. The man's words carried a trace of toughness. You! The man looked at Xuelin again and said indifferently, "Junior sister Lin Shui, you should know the rules. I don't need to repeat it again." Xuelin's pretty face turned ugly. She didn't expect to be stopped here. Behind Zichen, Tyrant, and the others were furious. If it weren't for the fact that this was the Wuji sect, they would have already killed these 3 undying sovereigns. Just as the atmosphere became awkward and oppressive, a voice suddenly came from one of the wooden houses. "Let them in." The man was startled. He turned around and looked at the wooden house in the deepest part. He said in surprise, "Uncle Master, this is against the rules." I said, "Let them in." The voice became tough. The man obviously didn't dare to disobey the voice. After turning his head, he stared at the crowd with a fierce look and said coldly, "You're lucky. Go in. Let's go." Xuelin was a little unhappy. She didn't understand why her senior brother, who was usually very easy to talk to, was deliberately making things difficult today. Everyone's gazes towards that man also became unfriendly. If they could make a move, any one of them here could kill him. When he walked to the man's side, Zichen suddenly paused and sent a message to the man with his spiritual sense. "If you let me feel any killing intent from you again, you'll die." The man suddenly shuddered. His expression changed dramatically, and there was no trace of blood on his face. Senior Brother Wei Nua, what's wrong? The 2 beside him asked with concern. Wei Nua waved his hand and said, "Nothing, nothing." But his heart was still very cold. Of course, he knew who the man was, but he didn't expect the man's perception to be so sharp that he could sense the hidden killing intent. "Wei Nua, if you're tired of living, then go die yourself. Don't drag the others with you." Just as Zichen and the others disappeared, a voice filled with anger came from the depths of the wooden house. "Marshal uncle, what do you mean?" Wei Nua was startled and puzzled. "You know best what I mean. That Zichen has killed 2 digits of pseudo-heavens. If you have the ability, then go challenge him yourself. Don't abuse the rules of the everlasting sect." Hearing this, Wei Nua's expression became very unsightly, and Zichen's warning echoed in his mind. No matter what the reason was, Zichen wouldn't care. This was the only warning he had for him. Just as Xuelin said, that was only the entrance. 3 immortals and 1 pseudo-heavens regarding it. This was the real everlasting sect. This was a stable space in the chaotic space-time. There were many ancient buildings here. This was a sect with a long history, and it exuded an ancient charm. At the towering gate, the word everlasting was carved. This was the real everlasting sect, but it had always been hidden from the world. Just as the group of people arrived, a person flew out from the mountain gate. It was also a woman in green clothes. Although she was middle-aged, she was still very attractive. She rushed over. Elder Rain. Xue Lin called out softly, her face full of confusion. She knew Elder Rain's identity, and Xue Lin also knew that this elder usually didn't leave the Green Maiden Palace. Today, she suddenly came here. Elder Rain nodded slightly at Xue Lin. Then her gaze fell on the group. Her gaze swept over everyone, and finally, she looked at Zichen and said, "You are Zichen." "Yes, greetings, Elder Rain." Zichen nodded. He had already sensed that this Elder Rain was a Heaven Realm cultivator. "Come with me. Lady Qing Nu wants to see you," Elder Rain said. Now, Zichen was a little surprised. He hadn't even entered the gate. So how did Qing Nu know he was here? Let's go now. There's not much time left. Follow me. Chapter 1903. Before Zichen could respond again, Elder Rain pulled Zichen away impatiently. "What about my friends?" Zichen broke free from Elder Rain's grasp and asked. What just happened made him cautious. "I'll take you to see Lady Qing Nu first. I'll arrange for them myself later." Elder Rain didn't stop as she spoke. It was obvious that she was in a hurry. Zichen had no choice but to follow along. He wasn't any slower than Elder Rain as they headed towards the depths of the sect. They met other cultivators of the everlasting sect along the way. Most of them stuck their heads out and were surprised to see Elder Rain. While they were surprised, they were also sizing up Zichen and trying to figure out where this stranger came from. The two of them headed towards the deepest part of the everlasting sect and stopped in front of a large hall made of green stones. The words Green Maiden Hall were engraved on top of the hall. Lady Qing Nu is inside. Standing in front of the hall and feeling the ancient aura of the hall, Zichen suddenly felt a little nervous. Qing Nu was a truly powerful existence. She was the confidant of the founder of the everlasting sect, Wuji. There was only one Green Maiden Hall here. There were no other buildings or guards around. Elder Rain looked at Zichen and said, "Go in. Qing Nu is waiting for you." Zichen nodded his head and placed both his hands on the bronze door. With a light push, the door slowly opened. An ancient aura that had been there for a long time rushed out. It was as if this hall hadn't been opened for many years. After the door opened, Zichen didn't go in. He was a little hesitant. "Come in." An elegant voice sounded from inside the hall. Zichen didn't hesitate anymore. He took a deep breath and stepped into the hall. The door behind him slowly closed. Sigh. Elder Yu let out a long sigh as she stared at the door that was about to close. An extremely complicated expression appeared on her still, charming face. With a flash of her body, she disappeared from this place. Clearly, she had gone to make arrangements for Tyrant and the rest. Zichen entered the hall and found it empty. Only the sound of his footsteps could be heard. He scanned the place with his spiritual sense and found no signs of life. This made Zichen frown slightly and his mind tense up. "Don't be nervous. Whether it's for Shue's sake or because you've inherited Wuji's inheritance, I won't harm you." The elegant voice from before sounded again, and a figure emitting green light appeared in front of Zichen. This was a body formed purely from energy. Although the green light flickered and her true appearance could not be seen, one could still see her graceful figure. Coupled with her identity, one could imagine that she was an unparalleled beauty. "Zichen greets, Senior Qing Nu." Although Zichen was surprised to see Qing Nu in her energy form, he still bowed respectfully. If Limitless was his master, then the person in front of him was his master's wife. The green light flickered, and Qing Nu waved her hand and said, "No need to be so polite. You should have seen that I'm just an energy form, not the real Qing Nu." Zichen raised his head and looked at Qing Nu again, his expression full of confusion. Qing Nu was also sizing up Zichen. After a while, she said, "I'm an energy clone left behind when my original body entered the Star Path. It was to protect the Wuji sect." The Star Path. The Star Path is also called the Xingqian Ancient Road. Only those in the Heaven Realm are qualified to enter it. Just like the invasion of the alien race, the experts who enter the star path will go to places where the alien race lives. They will fight on the star path, weakening the alien race's power as they advance. It's another battlefield, contributing to the Zhanwu continent and the Tianwu continent. This was the first time Ziqin heard about it, and he was very shocked. The Heaven Realm is the final realm for all cultivators. Aside from a few special life forms, ordinary cultivators need a huge opportunity to reach the Saint Realm. That kind of opportunity doesn't exist in these two worlds. Only by entering the star path can one reach it. Qing Nu raised her head, and her deep gaze seemed to pierce through the palace and into the stars. Back then, my original body left with them, just like this. They, limitless? Ziqin's heart shook. Yes, Qing Nu nodded. If that's the case, then they didn't die like the rumors said. Instead, they stepped onto the ancient road of the stars. Ziqin was a little excited. He felt that, at this moment, he had seen the secrets of the world. Qing Nu shook her head and smiled bitterly. Although I've never been to the star path, I can guess that it's very dangerous. Entering the star path is almost equivalent to death. Under normal circumstances, as long as my original body exists, my avatar in the Qing Nu Palace will never dissipate. But in recent years, my avatar has been dissipating. If you had come a little later, you might not have been able to see me. Ziqin's expression suddenly changed as he cried out involuntarily, "Could it be that something has happened to Lady Qing Nu?" Qing Nu shook her head again. "I'm not sure, but the situation is not good. I don't know if she's dead or alive. Then what can I do?" As soon as he said that, Ziqin regretted it. With his strength, what could he do? Qing Nu looked at Ziqin as a smile appeared on her face. "You're too weak. You can't do anything for the time being. This time, I called you here to give you extreme Yin and also to tell you two things. Senior, please tell me. First, as a heaven defier, your enemies aren't necessarily the foreign races. In this Zhanwu continent, there are some forces that are related to the foreign races. These forces are currently in the dark, and it's impossible to identify them. You have to be careful." Ziqin nodded, forcibly suppressing the shock in his heart. He thought that his identity as a heaven defier was a secret. Who would have thought that Qing Nu, who he had never seen before, would be able to say it out loud? The identity of a heaven defier is special. I only guessed it through Shui. Because you haven't appeared for many years, most people won't associate you with a heaven defier. The cauldron of all creation is indeed a cover for you, but this cover won't last long. Even if they don't realize it, someone will tell them. Someone will tell them? Who else knows about my identity? Ziqin was puzzled. Someone from beyond the heavens. The first to sense the existence of a heaven-defying cultivator is someone from beyond the heavens. It can be said that they were the first to know about your identity as a heaven-defying cultivator. Seeing Ziqin's worried expression, Qing Nu said, "You don't need to be too worried. Even if they know about your identity, they won't be able to spread it for now. You're still safe. What you need to do is break through as quickly as possible while you're safe. At the very least, you have to reach the heaven realm to protect yourself. The transportation formation to the martial heaven continent is in the Boundless sect. You can bring others there." Ziqin nodded. This was his main goal in coming here. "The second thing is that my spirit body is about to dissipate, and I will no longer be able to protect the Boundless sect. I hope that you will lead the Boundless sect into the path of stars when the calamity is about to strike," Qing Nu said with a solemn expression. She was clearly entrusting this task to him. "The star path? Didn't you just say that only the heaven realm can enter the star path?" "That's right, but the Wuji sect is different. They are in this chaotic space so that they can escape in times of danger. The entire space is a great formation. By controlling the formation, they can escape from this world. It's not just the Wuji sect. In the first continent, all the hidden families have similar methods." Ziqin nodded. "All right, I agree. In a bit, I'll give you the method to control the formation, as well as Zenith Yin." I'll also remind you that your universe origin cauldron is broken. The only person in this world who knows this secret is me. Back then, the Boundless sect used this cauldron to fight the people from the outer heavens. The universe origin cauldron shattered, and the Boundless sect took a portion of it with her before leaving. The rest is in your hands. The universe origin cauldron's true core is no longer here. The universe origin cauldron in your hands can only be refined to the heaven realm. You have to be prepared for that. Zichen nodded solemnly. He had learned many secrets from Qingnu. Now, let me take a look at your yin and yang energy. Zichen did as he was told and released the power of gold and silver lightning. Gold and silver were of the yin and yang attributes, while lightning was the essence of energy. At this moment, the two energies formed a perfect cycle, mutually reinforcing each other. In a flash of green light, Qingnu arrived beside Zichen and carefully sensed the two energies around Zichen's body. Her eyes gradually brightened, and her face became more spirited. After a while, she nodded slowly and said in a voice that was close to praising, "It really is the fusion of yin and yang. Boundless, your deduction back then has finally been realized." Qingnu looked at Zichen again and said, "The fusion of yin and yang, complementing each other, can increase one's battle prowess by several times. And the fusion of yin and yang is only the first step. According to Wuji's final analysis, the fusion of yin and yang is the final step. On this path, I can't give you much help. Even Boundless can't. You'll have to explore everything on your own. Now I'll teach you Zenith Yin." A ball of light floated out of Qingnu's body and flew towards Zichen. "This is the Zenith Yin that Boundless left behind. I heard from Shui Air about your comprehension speed. Before my energy dissipates, you should comprehend Zenith Yin first." Zichen sat down cross-legged as the ball of light entered Zichen's mind. It was as if the scene from all those years ago had reappeared. A tall figure was deducing the great path technique in Zichen's sea of consciousness. As the hand seals changed continuously, the Grand Tao turned from simple to Zenith Yin. After an unknown amount of time, Zichen opened his eyes. Qingnu was standing in front of him, but the green light around her was very dim. "Lord Qingnu!" Zichen was shocked and immediately stood up. "My energy is about to run out. You can leave now." Qingnu's figure disappeared, leaving Zichen with a ball of green light. Zichen took the ball of light and walked out of the palace. After walking out of the palace, Zichen saw many people standing outside. He didn't know if they had heard about Qingnu's disappearance and came here spontaneously.